Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you are. This is the Halligans and Half Wheels podcast brought to you by Box 1971, where we're changing the culture of the fire service one fireman at a time. We are joining you not really live, not really, well, I guess we're really local, and definitely we're not late breaking from Clinton, North Carolina. And if you don't know where that's at, you can find it on the map. We are sitting on the back porch of the Chief's house. It's a beautiful evening here in North Carolina. I am joined by Chief Steve Lovette and his daughter Whitley. We're going to get into the dynamics. We always talk about father and son legacies. We've not really ever talked about fathers and daughters, so we want to talk about that. And we're going to talk about some leadership challenges. We'll jump into some introductions and so on and so forth. But Chief, I kind of want to turn it over to you. You had something you wanted to talk about before we get underway.
That's correct, brother. And I appreciate you coming out and making the trip. Wanted to take a few moments to remember our brother from the New York City Fire Department, FDMY. They had the bunting ceremony for Brother Timothy Klein, Ladder Company 170. He was a 6-year veteran of the New York City Fire Department. As we all know, Firefighter Klein responded to a 3-alarm fire at 108 and 26th Avenue in North Brooklyn, and apparently lost his life. And if we do have brothers from the FDMY, we take this time to remember so it doesn't ever happen again. Brother Klein, we have the watch from here. Rest easy. We take a few minutes to remember you. As we get into this, Jeremy had asked me to come out for this podcast, and he's exactly right. We don't talk about father and daughter legacies. We hear about father and son legacies. At previous employers, there are fathers and sons working the job, fathers with 2 sons working the job, and I hate to say nepotism, but that whole aspect of siblings and fathers and sons on the job. We understand that this is a traditional type of job. Dads watch their sons grow up. Sons watch their dads go to work. I'm very fortunate. My daughter is a paramedic in Johnston County, is a level 2 certified firefighter. She is a certified qualified instructor. And if you want to get humble real quick, Jeremy, teach a class with your daughter, and what you have been taught and what you are teaching and what you say when you hear this come out of your daughter's mouth.
Right. I can't imagine.
I truly had to turn and record it, and I was very humbled that my daughter is following in the old man's footsteps, and we talk about different aspects of the fire service, and we're going to get into them as cultural change of how do I make the profession better for her. I've been involved in this profession since 1986 as a career.
I was 6 years old.
Yeah, you were 6
I
years old.
wasn't even a thought.
Yeah, not a thought.
Not a thought.
But how I tease at my daughter and pick at my daughter, teaching with her. My job now as an old fireman is to teach her and her crew how to be an old fireman. I was great. I had great mentors coming up. I had those that gave me advice, taught me the tricks of the trade before they ever taught, that whole aspect. And we've got to learn the trade. And she has got a great foundation. I am so thankful. And we'll probably get into this in a little bit, but I never taught any of her certification classes.
Not a single one.
Not a single one.
He abandoned you.
No, I made sure that she learned it on her own.
I didn't want him teaching my classes.
No, we are too much alike.
Way too
Oh, that's
much.
no shit. If you had blonde hair and red lipstick right now.
Everybody says when I speak, he steps out of my mouth.
I could see that.
Yeah.
It truly
It's bad.
is.
When you both say fuck, I see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't say that. That's a
But
dirty word.
it's not really
Right.
dirty. Who defines dirty? That's the crazy thing. Like our society, I can't stand the word and a lot of people say and I view it like fuck. People just say it way too much and quit it. So you started out in 1986 in Salisbury.
I did.
You went to High Point.
I did.
In North Carolina.
I did.
Both pretty good fire departments in the state of North Carolina.
Very good organizations, both of them.
You are one of very few level 3 firefighters, probably still active.
Probably still in existence, yes.
Yeah.
I have a certification that says level 3 firefighter with...
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's old.
We were talking about Nextel phones earlier, and I was like, man, we just dated ourselves because I thought those were cool when they came out.
Yeah.
They're still cool.
You've been a local president?
I have. Local 673 with the city of High Point. I was a local president.
All right. And you've been published a few times?
I have with Jones and Bartlett. I'm in the leadership portion of Chapter 7 in your leadership of what the state was utilizing to teach Fire Officer 1 and 2.
And interesting enough, when we talked about this podcast, we talked about wanting to talk about leadership in the fire service. So here we are talking about it. One thing I did want to talk about, you were one of the first people in America to teach RIT as a hands-on portion.
No, we taught Mayday, calling the Mayday.
Calling the Mayday. Yeah, sorry.
I was teaching on a lot of the weekend seminar stuff and had the opportunity to teach with Davidson County Community College, and myself and several others, Chief Dan Mafia from Fayetteville Fire, Chief Don Crawford from Thomasville Fire, we were teaching the hands-on portion of the Mayday program. It had just come out, brand new. Davidson Community College had such a vested interest in this program and realized how important it was, had built a series of props, and I really thought we were doing something good till Friday at 5 o'clock before the keynote at 7 o'clock. They tell me that Dr. O'Neill's the one delivering the keynote from the Fire Academy.
Dr. Dennis O'Neill.
The man that wrote the program.
From the National Fire Academy, the United States Fire Administration, Dr. Dennis O'Neill.
Wrote the program.
A truckie with an education. A city administrator's worst nightmare.
And to teach that portion, to instruct that portion, and to have the man that wrote it sitting in the front row.
Intimidating.
You call it what you like.
Yeah, it's intimidating. Funny story about Dr. O'Neill. When you go to the National Fire Academy and you take a week course, you have lunch with the superintendent. And so I was elected to go sit and have lunch. And he was going around the room asking everybody if they what they thought, and they were the big push then was the EFO program, and it still is. And now they've got the managing fire officer, and they're both good programs. I take nothing away from them. But I told him in this lunch meeting that and in front of everybody, I said, I would much rather be an effective fire officer than an executive fire officer. And you would have thought that I had pissed on his plate.
Oh, you made him mad.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I heard about it.
No.
Yeah, I heard about it. We had a very good, long conversation on the way back to class from lunch. A very spirited discussion, but no disrespect on either party. It was a gentleman's discussion because it was my belief, and it still is my belief, we place a lot of weight on paper.
Yes. And
we were talking about an individual that will remain unnamed that looks very good on paper, but is a train wreck when it comes to everything in life. So, and I think that's putting it mildly, but you look at the resume and you don't look at anything else, it's very deceiving. So, but that's my Dr. O'Neill story. Great asset for the fire service. That's cool that you were one of the first people.
It was interesting to teach that hands-on or hands-off training program, or the hands-on training program. It was a handoff program, and you went on the Fire Academy and you downloaded all of the lecture material and the videos, and they give you ideas for props. And we made a floor collapse simulator, and we made a wall collapse simulator, and we just tried to take it to the next level. But when he was done on Saturday afternoon and he had sat through the lecture, and we even went to the point of having dispatchers come out and sit through the program of what happens if they hear those 3 words of Mayday, 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 what are they going to do?
Sure.
How are they going to react? What are they looking for?
Right.
We had the communicators with Davidson County sitting outside the practical area with radios, and now we're doing real life training. Holy cow, it's just a lightning strike.
Right.
We're now doing real life, realistic, simplistic training of what happens when that truly happens.
Sure.
And the man put his arm around me, and he said, wrote a good program. Skippy, you took it to the next level. Man, that was just like, holy cow. What can you say to that?
But he couldn't tell you shit for the next month.
No. Man, I'm walking on cloud 9. No.
Just to have a conversation with Dr. O'Neill is humbling in itself.
Yes.
Yes. And then your only child, Whitley.
Oh, thank God.
Because she was the first and the last.
Yes.
Whitley, you've been involved in the fire service for 14 years.
14 years this May.
And you're an active lieutenant. You're a paramedic, as your dad said. And you kind of went a different route. So you've got a little different background. You went and got an agribusiness degree from the University of Mount Olive.
I did. Graduated class of 2016. I tried to get away from it in high school, tried to get out of it, and that didn't really work. So I went back to what I knew. I went back to what I was good at.
And if anybody needs an interpreter, I don't know if we can turn on the closed caption, but...
It's about as bad as Bladenboro, I know.
Yee yee.
Yee, yee.
Yee.
So, we talked about Bladenboro. I believe it was in the April podcast. It could be. And Coleman from Lumberton Fire.
Old Tater.
Yeah, he's a piece of work.
Old Tater. Good friend of mine.
So what is
Good boy.
it? I'm going to ask you. He's sitting right here, and I think that I'll get it. I'll solicit a real answer.
Okay.
What's it like having your dad? Your dad's a big shadow.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to call him a friend is one thing, right? But to call him dad is another. You look at him in a totally different reticle than I would look at him.
Yes, I do.
And that's your dad.
That's my daddy.
What do you say again?
That's my daddy.
Yeah, Diddy. That's Diddy. Diddy.
For those of you that can't interpret that.
And that's your daddy.
It is.
And to me, he's the chief. He's kind of a big deal, and a lot of people would be like, "Wow, that's what's it like being a fire chief's daughter?"
It's hell. To be
Explain.
completely honest, it's hell.
Okay.
Being a chief's daughter, being his daughter, number one, and being in the same industry as him, that bar is set extremely, extremely high, or it's set extremely, extremely low. There is no in between.
Right.
I'm either told I have to do it this certain way because I'm his kid, or everything was handed to me because I'm his kid.
Which is not the case.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all. He never taught a single one of my classes.
And
On any level.
It's kind of noteworthy that your mom was involved in public safety too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Retired Elon police chief. She retired 2011.
Well, damn. When are you going to be the chief?
I'm trying to go EM. I want to go that one step further.
You want to be the boss.
Yes, the big boss.
Okay. All right. Well, I can appreciate that. Having a grandfather who was a fire chief is intimidating, and I can appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You got it. You didn't earn it. And you're like, okay, let's go
to work.
Let's go wit for wit.
Let's go to work.
No, wait. I want to punch in here just a second.
Sure.
I didn't teach any of her certification classes, with the exception of Tim's.
Tim's when it was new.
Oh,
When it was new.
good Lord, traffic
Yeah.
Hate that
incident
class.
management.
Hate that class.
That's a
But-
requirement here. I don't know if it's a requirement in most states, but it is in North Carolina.
It is. And I intentionally did not teach her classes for the aspect of I'm very fortunate Lovette and I raised Whitley by the points of the Maltese Cross.
Solid.
And we that's our foundation. All 8 points of the Maltese Cross. We raised her by that. And she knows that. But who was the first one at the base of the ladder when you got off? When you finish your last class, which was ladders, and you come down off the aerial, And who was the first one there to hug your neck? Was the
You
old
were.
man? Was the old man?
You were, because I'm scared of heights. I'm 5 feet tall, 130 pounds, and I'm scared of heights. I'm not a truckie.
But
And-
I will say this in your defense: you work like a grown-ass man,
I do.
She does.
and
And you've seen it.
I have. I can take nothing away from your physical ability or grit, because you are. I'm gonna say this, and please don't.
Go
hit.
ahead, say it.
You're a gritty bitch.
I am.
Yes, she is.
I am, and
that
I'm
is-
proud of it.
That is her mama in her, and I am so thankful that she has the best of both worlds, if you
Sure.
will.
She doesn't have facial hair.
No.
She needs a mustache.
Yeah.
Hell no, I already look enough like him.
Blonde hair. I am not wearing a wig. But
Be a
it
great
goes.
Halloween Gil. Right there.
Yeah. But we raised Whitley with that aspect, and to take that to another level of when she worked at an organization that would run second and third due to me, and I'm standing in front of a house that's burning, and I tell her engine company to come in to assist with fire attack or secondary line or primary search, and the one that answers you back on the radio, copy, assist with primary search, assist with fire attack, is your daughter?
Right.
How about that first fire we worked together over at the bridge?
Exactly.
Now that is country as hell. Not a road name. Over by the bridge.
Over
The
at
bridge.
Remember that, did he?
And that's exactly what it was. And I had one of my captains look back at me and go, "Cut the apron strings, old man." And then I'm going, I trust her training. I trust her instincts. The mentors that she has had, and some of them are the same mentors that I've had, and it just goes back to that same aspect of I've got to have faith in her ability to make a decision. She makes good decisions.
Most days.
Most days.
Well, we all have an off day here and there, right? We're allowed a mulligan once in a while.
Yeah, it's called Wednesday around here.
You mentioned that the Salisbury, you did 2 tours there, right?
I did 2 tours.
Okay. So you were in High Point when the Millworks fire happened? Is that
I
right?
was working in training division, assigned to training division, the day of the Salisbury Millworks fire. I had heard about what had happened, and I had very close brothers. Once you come into this profession, you don't come out unless you do something really, really stupid. Though I wasn't living in Rowan County, I wasn't associated with Rowan County, Salisbury. I knew of the call for service. I had heard what had happened. I am texting people what's going on.
Sure.
So Chief Parnell in Salisbury Fire
Yep.
was my first captain. Hi, Bob.
That's interesting. That is. It just shows you how small the career really can be.
Yes. And this profession in this state has an incredible grapevine. Wouldn't you say, Whit?
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't matter
Absolutely.
if you go from the Outer Banks to
Murphy to Manio.
yeah, it's crazy.
100%.
You know somebody, and that 6 degrees of separation is probably cut in half with us.
It is.
Is the fire service.
Yes.
If you don't know them, you know somebody that knows them.
That's right. But then, do you believe half of what you hear?
And only half of what you see.
I don't believe anything that I hear and only half of what I see. I've always tried to instill in Whitley through the cultural change, through the cultural diversity. The fire service is changing. The fire service is not the same fire service I got into in 1986 as a career. I was a volunteer several years before, grew up in a volunteer firehouse. The fire service is not the same.
What do you mean?
I cannot manage and govern in 2022 like I was managed and governed in 1986.
So what do you say to the chief that is like you that says, folks, I've been doing this for 30 years. It's never going to get any better. It's never going to do this. It's never going to do that.
Okay, my question to that 30-year chief, what have you done in 30 years? You just told me you're a 30-year chief, right?
Amen. Yeah.
Okay, what have you done in 30 years to improve yourself, your crew, and those that trust you with their life and property? What have you done? What personal challenges, what have you done to improve yourself? Because if you haven't done anything, then you've had nothing but your first year 30 times over.
Oh, say that louder for the folks in the back.
Ooh, brother, preach on.
I mean, my God, pass the plate, take
That's
it up.
exactly where I was going with it.
We could hang this up right here at about 20 minutes. We're done. I mean, that is it's amazing, with this business getting to travel so much. May and June are incredibly busy for us. I mean, incredibly busy. And when we go places, people always want to know what's it like in another firehouse. And I'm like, nothing changes. The walls change.
No.
But the characters remain the same.
Yes.
And, we were talking about, this whole, like some people, what's diversity? What's an old wooden ship is what Ron Burgundy said.
Yes.
But what is diversity, and why do we pigeonhole ourselves into something that we should not feel any shame for? Either you're competent or you're not competent. You're on time or you're not on time. And
either you can do the job or you can't.
yeah, like if you pass your physical agility test and you do the job and you don't, I was talking with a lady. I had stopped in and gotten a barbecue sandwich on the way here, and I was running behind, so apologies for that, Chief. I'll do push-ups later.
You're right, you will.
That we were talking, and she was talking about how she was like, "Oh, you're a fireman." I said, "Yeah," and she was like, "I could tell by your mustache." And I was like, well, I take that as a compliment, so thank you." And she's like, "The fire department needs to have more diversity." And first off, I am wearing an Andy Fredericks shirt.
Yes.
And so, kind of a giveaway. And she said this to me, and I had to literally the conscious thought of bite your fucking tongue. Because I'm in public.
Yes.
And I don't know who she is or who she's attached
yes.
to. And so I just kind of was like, ooh. But it made me think, like, I was recently part of a hiring process that, reasonable accommodations. When you don't pass an agility test, do you let somebody continue on? Now, I know that you're a chief, and we're not going to talk about your specific policies or procedures, but I'm going to ask Whitley this question.
Shoot.
How do you feel about that? When people physically can't do the job?
If you can't do the job, get out of my way, because I've got a job to do. I'm sorry. I've got stuff that I've got to do. I've got shit that I got to take care of. Just get out of my way, because you're in my way. Either let me go to work. The problem with the diversity, yeah, sure, the fire service could probably use it. Everywhere could use it. But why does it scare you so bad?
It doesn't scare me. It
doesn't scare you. It doesn't scare you. It don't scare me because I'm living it. But
right.
Why is it that a 5 foot tall, 130 pound blonde female can scare more brass and more line officers by breathing than anything else?
I think I know why. Because it's insecurity.
But for what? I don't want your job.
No. It's not that. It's they see that you're competent, and they know that you're not. Like, what is your... I'll tell you what my weakness is. You tell me what yours is.
Okay.
Ropes and knots.
Okay.
My weakness.
Yeah.
23 years. Never put a 3-to-1 together in anger. Never rappelled off the side of a building in anger. Now, is that saying that people in Boston or Chicago don't do it? No. But it's such a niche market. I've been to way more fires and way more EMS calls and pin jobs than I've ever been to that.
100%.
But that's my weakness.
Mine's heights. I'm not a truckie.
Right.
I'm not going to cut a roof unless it's life or death, and I'm the last resort you've got.
That's right.
I don't do heights.
That's fair. But did it stop you from going and completing
No.
your tasks in rookie school?
No.
See, that's the difference. Is I don't like heights either. But how I overcame that is I went and flew in a commercial airplane. I forced myself, and boy, let me tell you, I'm scared to death.
I was kicking and screaming. I mean, when I first started, where I got my start at career-wise, I, 4th story, had to bring my battalion chief out the window down the ladder by myself.
It's rough.
Had to do it.
But that's part of the job, right?
That's part of the job. I mean, if I can't do it on training, how am I going to be able to do it in real life?
Yeah. Or how do you even get in the door if you can't do it?
Exactly.
Fair questions.
But understand that now, speaking as a chief,
Oh, shit.
Yeah, here we go.
You should go put your bell cap on. Go ahead, Chief.
I'll
Sorry.
carry your luggage, big boy. The aspect of especially in understanding that in this state, and nationwide, our volunteers outnumber our career guys. But the challenge to a chief is realizing what the person brings to the table. What can you get out of them? And teaching leadership and teaching NIMS 300 and 400. Holy cow! You go back and you start looking at a lot of the volunteer organizations, especially in Eastern North Carolina. We start looking at what the 50-year-old president of the Ladies Auxiliary that wants to be involved, what does she bring to the table? And she's taking the NIMS 300 class because she wants to be part of the community. Okay, maybe she's great at doing time. Maybe she's great at working FEMA paperwork.
T-cards.
Maybe she's great at working T-cards. Maybe she's great at resource application or how we're going to acquire resources. All of those things come into play and understanding it.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I mean, there was a fire chief in Durham County years ago that he's like, there's a place for everybody. And I was like, I don't know if I agree with that. And that was the salty, crusty fuck that was like, I don't know about that. I don't know if I agree with that. But when you volunteer in a small place and you understand, like, I was with Curtis earlier, and we were building the podcast table. He's getting ready to pour the resin on it. We drilled the holes. We mocked the whole thing up.
Thanks, Curtis.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I can't wait for it to be here. And but when you think about how people bring something, like one thing I hated when we were awarded FEMA grants was having to do those quarterly briefings.
Yes.
If somebody can take that and run with it,
Have
perfect.
at it.
Yeah, like I've got other things to focus on. Like if you're good at computer stuff and you can update social media, I don't, but people bring certain things that we overlook them because they're not
on the end of the hose with the knob. We're not knob guys. We're not cutting holes in the roof. Okay, you get your 15-year-old junior firefighter. You start training them and teaching them, hey, we're going to change out air bottles on air packs. Right. You're my air guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're
my tool cache guy. You throw out a salvage cover and you start laying out forcible entry tools, striking tools, prying tools, all of that come into play, and you start bringing out the best of your people, and everybody has what? There can't no one person do this job. I've never seen a fire chief be able to connect to a hydrant, set up the pump, and drag a hose in and make a fire attack if there's more than one person on the fire ground. You get everybody involved. And that's the challenge of a volunteer fire chief. That's the same challenge of a career fire chief. What do you have in your people that you can, I hate to say exploit, but what do you have in your people that you can exploit?
Well, and knowing your people. I think that's the other thing is that we don't take the time to, we talk on the phone. The problem with you and I when we get on the phone is it's an hour conversation, and we may be just calling to say, hey,
what's up?
Did you see this?
Yeah.
Hey, I want to show you one thing, or go to this website. And we end up on the phone for an hour. People don't connect like that anymore.
No, they don't.
You're guilty of it too.
I know.
We get on the phone, it's,
hey, have you seen this? Hey, let me tell you about this. Hey, this is what I did the other day.
We need to get together. We need to do this. And that is, it's amazing that people don't invest in themselves. We're all sitting here with our phones in front of us, and we're not really, nobody's looking at their phones. Whitley got posted on Fury DeSerti's website, or I guess Facebook page, she's smoking a mini Maduro. No, that's a Habano. I'm sorry, it's a red label. Habano. You're smoking our Box 1971 blend.
Oh, I like it too.
Yeah, it's a 7x70 gauge. It's a big one.
I got
Thinking
the midget
of
one.
you, Phil. Wish you were here, brother.
He does too. I think he's working a double in the ER tonight. He is really, I think he's really found his niche. That dude loves medicine.
He does.
He can geek out on some medicine, and
it's fun.
I'm happy for him. As a guy that has been through some shit.
Yeah.
As long as he can go and pay his bills and be happy, I think that's the biggest thing.
That's I learned a lot from Phil, and I know he'll listen to this. And Phil taught me a lot about life in general, about how to handle and roll with the punches, and understanding life.
He's been punched a time or two.
He has been punched a time or two, and I went through some punches, and he just, man, he comes up, and he has a zest and a zeal to be around. You want to be around quality people like us. You want to be around quality people that are giving back and producing something for the profession.
Yeah.
And being able to say we've got, it's not a legacy and it's not about us. It's leaving it better for her than I ever thought about finding it. And it's not, we talk about communication. But nowadays, that we always thought, oh, communication, the administration doesn't ever talk to us, and they never send anything down and let us talk about anything, and we don't talk about. Nowadays, it goes a step further than communication. It's comprehension.
Yes.
I can say it to you, but I can't understand it for you.
Exactly, and that is one of the biggest discussions. Now, my daughter and I, we talk pretty much every day. Either her on her way home from work or on her way to work, or I'll text her today, hey, you busy? Yeah, Daddy. Like she had yesterday. Man, she was just in the wind yesterday. But we talk about fire service, and we talk about EMS, and we talk about this, and it's the comprehension, and we talk about different styles of management, and we talk about leadership styles, and it's offhanded conversation of like,
just because I'm his kid doesn't necessarily mean I think the same way that he does.
No, not by
We differ. Oh Lord, do we differ?
This is
I bet y'all fight like cats.
Oh,
We do. You ain't got no
ask
idea.
her mother. She has to separate us and put us in neutral corners at times.
Yes.
Imagine
Imagine it on a fire ground.
Yeah.
You mentioned something. You guys text at work. So I worked yesterday, and Whitley worked yesterday, and I texted her at 21:24, and my text to her was, wrote a couple tickets, tucked into bed. She writes back immediately, hell yeah. 2 minutes later, I was out the door. I was so pissed. We ran 2 more after that.
Love you. Mean
and
it.
Slept after midnight. It was great.
And
And
you
I
don't
ran
use
3.
you don't use the Q word.
No,
No.
ever. It's a forbidden word. It's like speaking someone's name into existence.
Right.
So, as a leader, and I don't use that term tongue in cheek. You just went through an ISO reduction.
Yes, sir.
A big one.
A big one.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize, and I harp on ISO. I've talked about ISO a couple times, but they don't realize that what that does. So you have to manage a budget. You have to manage personnel issues. You have to manage public issues. Somebody flushed hydrants and took all the mulch out from around my flower bed.
My water's brown.
Right. And you have to manage all that. You're the catch-all.
I am.
And, I've said it before, and I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, but Chief Scanlon, God rest his soul, he would say, hey, brother, you know what them are on my collar? I'd be like,
Collar plungers.
I was like, nah, those are plungers.
That's right.
I push shit down.
Yes.
And I laughed my ass off when I learned that. But, the chief, he brought a lot to the table for us and taught us how to be, at least for me, a better human. Not just a better fireman, not a better tactician, but a better human. And I miss him. I mean, I think that, we all serve a purpose, and he, he was the foundation of officership. That, it was what it was, and I'm thankful for that. Whitley, in your role, what do you have with leadership? You're a volunteer lieutenant?
I am. I'm a volunteer lieutenant. So I have a very unique skill set. I'm able to translate between the old salty firemen
Okay.
and the new firemen that are coming in.
Okay.
And it's difficult at times. The problem is everybody likes to ride the recliner nowadays.
No, say it ain't so.
The old guys don't want to get out there and train with the new guys because they feel that the new guys just discount everything that they say.
Well, I will tell you that a lot of these guys, they love YouTube.
They do, and they're
they
YouTube
love
firemen.
and they love Facebook, and there's some good names that do a lot of cool things.
Oh, yeah.
But they want to count that as training, and it's like, okay, that's cool.
Go put your hands on it.
Yeah, can you physically do it?
Right.
And I almost think that like maybe we're screwing up a little bit when we allow all this online EMS con ed,
Agreed.
because a lot of people are losing their hands-on skills.
Agreed.
And I think
Simple skills.
Yeah, and patient care has almost all but non-existent anymore.
Right.
At least from what I've seen. Not banging on anybody, just saying people have become so
Complacent.
well. I think COVID had to deal with that.
That too.
We had to wear a mask. We were told we couldn't go outside.
Couldn't
I don't
be
know
around
if
people.
Yeah, you had to be 6 foot. And I talked with a fireman who got rode up, or was going to get written up for not riding up his guys
Right.
for being 6 foot apart in the bay with the doors open.
It's a firehouse.
Yeah, it was interesting. We could ride in the fire engine together.
But you can't stand in the bay together?
Yeah, just the rules, like comply or else, is almost what it was like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just very, very interesting to me. I don't know. I don't know. Just something. So, you're a newer paramedic, transitioning into a full-time job as a paramedic. Mm-hmm. You like it?
I love it. I love where I'm at. Luckily, the place that I'm at in Johnston County, the top dogs are firemen too. So they're really understanding. Like, the biggest challenge I've got right now is how I write my reports.
Because you write like you talk, probably.
No, I can write well. I just don't English well.
That's fair.
I write them like a fireman. I'm not as in depth as I need to be.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I write like a fireman.
It's hard.
And it's having to change that around.
It's very difficult to transition between the two. It's different to write a fire report that's black, white, here it is,
This is what I did.
and having to write an EMS report and potentially have to go before the man and answer it.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a different world. What do you think of that cigar? That is a Fury de Serie.
I like it. It's little like me. But it's really good.
So Tony has, that's a Tony Peach cigar. You can buy them at Cuban Crafters online. If you buy $100 or more, it's free shipping. That's a free little nugget for you. They do a great job. They're down on 7th Avenue or 7th Street in Miami. Everybody always asks me, why do you love to go down there? I will sit in the cigar factory all day, drink coffee. That's the only time I drink coffee. And I will sit there and hang out and smoke all day in a barber chair. And then get my head shaved.
Hey.
Not because I need it.
Well, I mean, 2 peas in a pod over there.
Well, we both have exceptional facial hair and glossy foreheads.
Yes.
Now, tell the people who was the first one to shave my head.
Me.
Okay. Who went to it with the dog clippers?
Me.
Okay.
I caused you to lose your hair.
I actually shaved mine for St. Baldrick's, and then I realized that I had hella widow peaks. I was like, ooh, this looks like shit. And my wife was pissed at me for always going to get my flat top cut. So she said, enough's enough. Quit the shenanigans. So
Shenanigans?
I'm
Did
now
somebody
Shenanigans?
say shenanigans?
Weevil shenanigans.
I think you're like,
I'm going to pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
Hey, Farva. What's the name of that bar you like?
You know, the one with all the goofy shit on the wall.
Oh, you talk about shenanigans?
So, Chief, let's talk about leadership. Let's talk about, a lot of people throw it around. They say they understand it, but don't implement it, don't use it. So talk to me about what you see as leadership and how you embody that in your daily duties.
I look at leadership of my guys. And I told them when I went to work there, I'm still a fireman. I like to do fireman stuff. Fireman stuff is out throwing ladders, dragging hose.
Do you still do that?
From time to time when I'm allowed, and it goes back to time. The fires I have to put out now are financial, personnel, and politically driven. Because you're right, I have to answer when the person calls in and this needs to be done or that needs to be done, or they have this complaint or that complaint. I'm the one that they want to talk to. They want to talk to the chief of the fire department.
Right.
I long for the day of being able to get up and get out from behind the desk and run the single-story wood frame residential, or in Eastern North Carolina, it's the pre-manufactured mobile home. That's the great thing about this job.
Bread and butter fire right there.
It is. That is the bread and butter fire.
That's what we know.
We shouldn't take that very lightly, because things happen on the bread and butter fires.
Yep. Absolutely.
And there's where we have complacency. Leadership, man. When we get in and we start talking with leadership, it goes back to the aspect of, what can I do to make sure my folks have what they need to handle that bread and butter fire when something goes awry?
Right.
And how do I lead my crew? Trusting my guys to make good decisions. And realizing that they're not going to make the same decision I do because they're not me, but trusting the decisions that they make.
Like me. You know, yes, I'm your child. Yes, I'm your kid. There's things that we think the same way about, but there's things that we do completely opposite from each other.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times we've gotten into it. Not gotten into it, but you've come
Spirited discussion.
We have
Yes.
we have lively discussions.
Yes.
And especially teaching together.
Yes.
I bet that's fun.
Oh, it is. It is
It is a ball.
we have a good time, but we have students that come back time and time again going, because the 7 o'clock show is completely different from the 9 o'clock show. And we get the material across. We get the practicals done. We do the cognitive and the psychomotor.
Right.
But being able to say, we give you something to think about. As leaders in the fire service, that's what we're losing. The fire service is right now looking for an identity, if you will. We can't have the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, because I got the gold, you'll do as you're told.
Oh, I've never heard that.
Oh, you like that?
I do.
Feel free to use that.
I will. Thank you.
That's a Skippyism.
But then you have ones like me that's going to come up. It's like, all right, that's fine, but tell me why.
I can tell you why when we get back to the station, and we'll sit down and have a class, and we'll have an educational opportunity.
And that's fine, but that doesn't always happen.
You're right.
That is true. I mean, it's a fine balance, right?
It is a very
fine
fine
balance.
balance.
There's the, I hate to say it,
Just say it.
the whole aspect of chain of command. You know, like when you walk in, like I said, you cast a big shadow. I mean, you don't take up a whole door frame, but professionally, you are,
Thank you.
well credentialed and well admired, and
Thank you.
And that's not just coming from me. That's coming from a lot of folks that we encounter. You know, a lot of people don't realize that Whitley's yours. I mean, they kind of put something together, but I've seen people not judge her for being your daughter, but based on her skills.
Exactly.
The first training that you came down and did at Leland.
Yep.
Phil was the only one that knew who I was, and he didn't even recognize me to begin with.
Yeah.
You had no clue who I was.
Not a clue. That's been what, 5 years?
Something like that.
Jesus Christ, we're getting old.
But when Larimore turned around and spun her around in the bucket of that ladder truck and said,
Go to work.
You're Steve Lovett's daughter. You know, and I always told her, my father left me with a good name. Here we go back to those 8 points of the Maltese Cross again.
Right.
My father left me with a good name when he passed on.
Sure. How long has he been gone?
Dad died in 99.
Mercy sakes.
And he was a retired communicator with North Carolina Highway Patrol.
Okay.
Was a volunteer captain.
Okay.
And I grew up in the firehouse.
I am 4th generation.
Yeah, my grandfather drove the first one of the
But you're
first.
not a boy.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Oh,
Chesticles,
Lord.
not testicles.
Preach it.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I had great mentors, and those mentors would let me make mistakes. That's one of the problems in leadership. Let your guys make a mistake.
But don't let them drown.
Exactly. Don't let them drown. And if they make the same mistake more than once, now it's a conscious decision.
Oh, that is a fact. A mistake repeated is a decision.
Exactly.
Yes.
A mistake repeated is that a decision. And we go back to the difference between communication and comprehension.
Yeah.
Her last name, I would like to think, her last name has brought her to the doorway. It's her decision to step through the threshold of that door or not.
And that's fair.
And that the first time she took her qualification test, her Q32 test, she didn't make it.
Nope.
She did not
Is that
make
the knots? Is that
No.
where they got
it.
you?
No, the ladders. Or was it?
It was the fact that I didn't tell them whether they passed or failed. It was the way that I was grading.
But they were tying knots, weren't they?
No, they were doing.
I thought it was knots.
It was a tool hoist, and then
With a rope.
yes, and then
I knew there was a rope in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I was going to get you to say
Yeah.
it one way or the other.
Yeah.
It was a fucking halyard. It doesn't matter. There's a rope.
yeah, it was a damn rope, and then checking the chainsaw.
Fair. Should have been checked at 800
Agreed.
at shift change, not at,
Agreed.
yank and bank. Let's go to work.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
It's time to punch in, boys and girls.
Yeah.
But I didn't grade the way that they wanted me to,
Yeah.
which is it's fine.
But
It's a learning curve.
You passed it, though, and you're done.
I'm past it and I'm done.
the second time she passed it, she didn't stand on her head. She said, "Hey, this is a learning experience. This is something that Dad's taught me that this is a learning experience. We're going to learn from this. We're going to take this opportunity to say, okay, let's back up and examine it."
How can I fix it?
Yeah, because I remember you called me and you told me, and you were like, it didn't happen, but this is what we're doing.
Yep.
I mean, you were downtrodden about it. Well, I wouldn't say downtrodden.
I was upset with myself.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to say it. You
Yeah.
weren't downtrodden. You were like, all right, we're going to fix it. We've got a date to retest, and we're
Yep.
going to...
That's what we're gonna
A
do.
lot of people would let that be their defining moment. That's one thing I've seen. They let adversity be their defining moment. You know, just boom, that's it.
What does the word fail stand for?
First attempt in learning.
There you go.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are very scared of failing.
Yes.
They're scared of, they never jump in the water.
And I'm going both full force, both feet in.
Yeah, like, okay, let's go to work. You know?
Let's punch in. Let's go to work. It's time to go to work.
Yeah, it's an interesting paradigm for sure that people don't look at, and and it will be. You've got two things. You've got sexism and nepotism,
Yep.
and it is tough to bust that stigma in a good old boys club.
Yep.
But the fact that you're rising through the ranks, the fact that you're progressing, the fact that your dad has reached what every fireman, I don't know if every fireman wants to be the chief, but most firemen want to be the chief until they find out,
What chief is about.
and then go, fuck, this sucks.
The fires you get to put out are financial, political, or personnel driven.
And that is no fun.
No, it's not.
So what do you tell the guy? What do you tell the 24-year-old who has been to the Day Academy, every certification known to man? He's doing everything he can. He's checking all the boxes. He's got his 5 years. He's got his instructor. He wants to come in and be the leader. What do you tell him? Or her?
Sit back and learn the job and be the best fireman you can be, and the rest of it will come. Because you will approach those doorways. You will have the opportunity to step through that threshold and become a leader. Enjoy the job. Enjoy the job of being a fireman. You look at it, being a fireman is the greatest job in the world. What we get to see and what we get to do. Mr. Fireman, thank you for cutting a hole in my roof. Hey, it was my pleasure. It's okay. We let the heat and the smoke and the toxic gases out. That's great.
Nobody likes to have an emergency, but shit, I want to be there when you do.
Well,
I
that's
don't want to see
it.
anybody's shit burn, but if it's burning,
I
want
wanna
to
be
be
there.
yeah,
See?
I
You
do.
know.
I want to be there. I don't.
I don't wish anybody any bad luck, but if it happens, especially when I was on shift, my guys knew if it happened, I want to be right in the middle of it because I want to say, man, I was there.
Yeah.
I was there.
Well, it's like I was talking with my buddy CJ. He's a Winston-Salem fireman. You know CJ.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, bless his heart.
Special mustache game on him.
Yes. Yes.
My man's lost a lot of weight.
Yes,
He
he
has.
has.
He's been running like somebody been chasing him. I said, damn, CJ, somebody ate half your ass, literally. And he looks good, though, and he's happy.
In a male kind of way.
Yeah, not like, yeah. Thank you for clarifying.
I
do
got your
appreciate
back,
it. Thank
brother.
you.
I got
I
you.
mean, it's questionable.
But CJ was at that big what was it, fertilizer fire. And he called me the day after. He's like, man, did you see the news? And I was like, bro, I don't watch the news. He's like, we had a big fire. Check it out. So I got on the line. And I was like, holy shit. He's like, here's a picture of us going down the road. We could see it as we turned the corner. I was like, damn, that's legit.
I went to Chimney Rock when it burned in Asheville.
He said to me, he says, this is a fire that's going to have a name. I went to a fire that's going to have a name. And it's not going to have a name because something bad happened.
Right.
And when he said that, it hit me right dead square between the eyes.
Yeah.
I was like, man. But he was excited to go to that because, there was nothing they could do for it. I mean.
But he was there.
But he was there, right?
He was there.
And that's a pride and joy. Why do people want to promote so quick? Why do we force people to promote so quick?
That's the problem is we force them to promote quickly. We don't allow guys to learn how to be good firemen, to ride in the back of the truck. Who's the senior man?
Right. Like
on
all
the
these
shift.
kids. And
That's just it right there.
Kids.
You said it.
yeah.
That kid can be the 18-year-old, and here I was. I started in 1986 as an 18-year-old snot-nosed kid starting with Salisbury Fire Department.
10 feet tall and bulletproof.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I had seen a little bit of fire coming in, and we get that. We've got to understand and to have those good captains, to have those good senior guys. That's the leadership. Who truly runs the fire department?
The captain.
Yes. The captain, the battalion chief, the chief of operations.
The line.
They run the fire department. Those are the guys that are out doing the job every day. And man, you get to see things. You get to do things. You get to hear things.
Why? Let me ask you this. I don't know how it was when you came up, so I'm interested to hear.
Oh.
Because we came up a decade apart.
Mm-hmm.
So, how...
There is 3 generations, literally, sitting
Yeah.
at this table right now.
Yeah.
There is. So, the question I have is, as a young guy, were you expected to drive?
No.
No, hell no.
Lord, no.
That wasn't your seat.
My seat was on the tailboard, yes. And you can talk to me all day about being salty. Until you fought fire in long coat and hip boots, you ain't salty anymore here.
Do they even make them in my size, though?
The Cabbage Patch collection.
What size boots are you?
4.
Say that again for the people in the back.
4.
So, my place was on the tailboard. You wanted to get off the tailboard, and you wanted to get out of the rain and the cold and the heat, and you wanted to move to the cab. My first engine I was on was a Jayco with the city of Salisbury.
I've never heard of Jayco.
Jaco, Jayco. Made by Ron Popeil and Ronco.
All right.
Some of you may not even know who that is. But you wanted to get off the tailboard. You wanted to get to the cab. You learned your streets. You learned how to pump. You learned to do it the right way until your captain felt confident in your abilities. You didn't move up to driving the truck. There was no EVD and there was no pump operator. No, those are great. Those are great for laying a great foundation. We in the fire service, we don't lay great foundations anymore. We take too much time in looking at a certificate. Let's let somebody, don't tell me what you know.
Show me what you know.
Show me. Show me.
Let's go wit for wit.
Exactly. Show me what you know, and that was something I was taught in High Point, something I was taught in Salisbury.
I don't think it's wrong. I just
No.
I guess I look at it. That was the senior man. He knew the district. That was the job of the senior man to get up front to drive. It was kind of his retirement gig. He didn't want to promote, but he understood the rigs. He understood things. Now it's like you go, especially here in North Carolina. If you've got EVD, you've got your pumps, and you've got your aerial. They cut you loose and say, hey, buddy, go at it.
Yeah.
And they don't have, like, you may understand pump theory until you're pumping 4 lines and 2 trucks.
But God forbid you ask them a simple friction loss equation.
No, I pushed. I got in trouble one time.
I pushed preset.
I got in trouble. Imagine that.
I was one of the few that could run a manual throttle by sound. Holding a conversation with my pump instructor, working a manual throttle, told him to hold on 1 second, fine-tuned it, said, you're probably about an 84, 85 PSI on the line. He said, how did you do that? Listen to your pump talk to you.
A lot
That's
of
a
people,
dying art.
they don't. Well, now everything's push button.
That too.
That's the issue. We don't teach. I hate to say it, but coming back from a wonderful movie of my generation, Top Gun, we're losing our dogfighting skills. When was the last time you were taught to put your hand on the steamer connection to see if your pump was running hot?
I do it out of habit.
Exactly.
And I teach my guys that.
You do it out of habit. You know, and we go back to that aspect of when was the last time we were taught those basic 7 steps of pump operation? Now push button is in there. You know, and I don't understand the fire service, and people can say it's advancement and it's how we're looking at it now, and it's understanding those 7 steps of pump operation.
Well, that is a lost art. So I got to tell you, confession. We had to put up somebody for Engineer of the Year. I've always been an affinity that engineers build buildings and bridges.
Drive trains.
Yes. And stations or radios where cops are. You know,
They're firehouses because we are a family and we live in a
firehouse.
Thank you.
But I don't understand. And if you treat it like a house, maybe. But then again, do you look at where some of your people live and how they treat their own house?
I'm not going there.
Yeah, it's tough.
True.
It's very tough. Like if they treat their house like shit, then they're going to treat the city stuff like shit, or the district stuff like shit. But we had to put up somebody for Engineer of the Year. And I had gotten it from somebody else, so I used it. I don't remember who gave it to me, but I put in, it was a Detroit Fire Commander. And so I wrote on my little slip, Detroit Fire Commander. And my handwriting's very distinct. Yeah, it got me called to the old man's office. Is this a mockery? I was like, no, the fucking thing's preset. We're a pre-connect nation. Nothing's a static load anymore. You know, you pull 8 sections off. You know, oh, well, what's the friction? I don't know. I hit the button. I hit the green button. That was my preset. Oh, cool.
I'm going to send this link to a former boss of mine, Damon Tobin, who's retired battalion chief.
Love you, Damon.
From High Point. And we had the idea during an engineer's or fire equipment operator, FEO, promotional program. We covered the master discharge gauge during their promotional process. Why do you think we'd want to cover the master discharge gauge?
Make them run multiple lines?
Make them run multiple lines. To give me friction loss on each line, and to listen to your pump. You know, and I go back to the Top Gun thing again. Everybody should name, or naval aviators and Marine aviators and Air Force aviators and Army aviators, they name their aircraft.
Right.
Why do guys that chauffeur, and I like the term chauffeur, why do guys that chauffeur not name their fire trucks? My first company that I was a chauffeur on, a fire equipment operator, my fire truck's name was Lillian.
Lillian.
It was my grandmother.
No shit.
No shit. And if Lillian's happy, we're going to be happy. A clean fire truck is a happy fire truck. Lillian will tell you everything you need to know if you're smart enough to listen to her.
So, you brought up an interesting point, and I love this. I actually have it saved. An engineer, a person who designs, builds, or maintains engines, machines, or public works. We are none of those.
No, we're not.
A person qualified in a branch of engineering, especially as a professional, like an aeronautical engineer. A person, a supervisor of an engine, especially a railroad locomotive, or an engine of an aircraft or ship, or a skillful contriver or originator of something. And if you look up the definition of chauffeur, it says a person employed to drive.
Hey!
But chauffeur is not sexy.
Oh, yes, it is.
I think it's great.
I think it's lovely.
It's just me. I have bad news.
Yes.
I have researched on the Google box as much as I can. The smallest size I can find in a 3/4 fire boot is a size 7.
Yeah.
That even got a snort.
I've been walking around like a clown.
Yeah.
Just waddling.
So 3/4 are going to be out for you.
Yeah.
You could buy the chauffeur boot now. Those are short. They're really
It'll probably be normal size for me.
They're great. The chauffeur boot is great.
Yes.
How do you feel about guys driving in boots and gear?
That was one of the first thing I did when I came to Clinton. Is we don't have the luxury of having 3 people on a truck normally.
Okay.
I put my drivers in bunker pants. You'll wear bunker pants because if you're coming in second due, I want you to be as dressed as you can be once you get to the fireground, with the exception of coat and helmet.
Sure.
I want you driving in boots. I want you driving in bunker pants. Well, the boots are so big we can't hit the pedals. Well, I understand that. I drove a fire truck wearing bunker pants.
Right.
And it goes back to a training opportunity. You take the truck out and you train how to drive and know where your pedals are at, and it's wheel time, and you do that with your bunker pants on.
How can they not hit the pedals when I can in boots?
Well, I will say that we are sporting double the size.
Okay, then you got double the surface area to hit it with.
Well, but those pedals are built so close together.
Yeah, okay,
The
fair.
people at E1 don't pay attention.
That's why I'm wearing a Pierce shirt.
I hope the wheels don't fall off. Drew Sutphin, you build good fire engines and fire trucks, 3-to-1 safety factors. I don't give a shit what anybody else says. I enjoy a Sutphin.
I'm glad you do.
I'm sorry. I enjoy a Sutphin. It is what it is.
Give me an old LaFrance and I'm happy.
Well, you can't buy parts for them anymore.
And
Now, did you know that LaFrance, after they went through some of their issues, were built in Rowan County?
I did not know that.
They were built in Cleveland, North Carolina, right outside of Salisbury.
Shooter, who is a instructor for us, lives in West Virginia. They were doing stuff in Bluefield, Virginia, right across the border.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about people. Let's give a quick shout out to a couple of our partners. Rock Rooster Footwear. If you want to save 15% on purchase of whether you want hiking boots or duty boots, their boots are amazing. We wear them. With Rock Rooster, every step matters. If you want to rock out with your cock out, be the cock of the walk, wear some Rock Roosters. Just use code BOX1971 for 15% at checkout.
do they have kid sizes?
They do.
Sweet.
They're a very good boot. I wear them on duty as well.
I could use new duty boots.
Had a phone call from this gentleman the other day. I was doing an event with my wife on Saturday, and Mike Perrone from Firehouse Innovations, he retired out of Ladder Company 175 out of East Brooklyn, New York, called and said he wants to be on the podcast. He heard it. And so there's going to be a trip to New York. We are lining it up to go see Captain Farrell and do Captain Farrell one day. And then we are going to go and shoot one with Mike Perrone. But I will tell you that the Firehouse Innovations Corporation doors, the multi-force door and the crush door prop, we couldn't be happier with them. If you need anything with those, visit them on the web. And lastly, Mikey Hillman, who is from North Carolina, is a federal fireman, owns First in Leather, some of the absolute best leather gear I've ever had. If it fails during your tenure as a fireman, he will replace it. And he always says that if something bad happened or something good happened, depending on if you ruin his work, he will replace it. So if you use Box 1971 at checkout, you'll get 10% off of $50 or more. Whitley.
Yes.
So let's talk about your mom's leadership style.
It's very different.
I know that Lavelle's not here to defend herself. So just talk to me about your experience, because you've got both ends of the spectrum.
I do.
You had a police officer. I mean, you're like an Irish family.
Literally. Scottish, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, well, they called it Irish welfare.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Yes.
So everybody's involved in public safety.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? I mean, take me back. How's that with your mom?
Oh boy, you ready for this one?
Should I mute your mic?
Yeah, you probably ought to.
So no, I mean, if you want to tell the bad, that's fine. But just talk to me about how the leadership style differs from the police aspect to the fire side.
Oh, it's extremely different. My dad is like a bull in a china shop, which I get, honestly.
Because he doesn't break his shits on?
That, and he's just... My first lieutenant told me at White Lake that I'm like Tasmanian devil. Just point me in the direction you want me to go. Let me go. I will come back eventually. I may have something broken. It depends. But I'll come back. And I'll get what you need done. My mom, on the other hand, she's very calculating. She is very calculating. And not necessarily conniving, but particular. So her leadership style, she liked to set expectations, set those standards, and then she walked away. She
Fair.
let her guys work. She didn't question them. Now, she did have a WTF stamp that she put on the reports when they were really fucked up. She did do that.
That's legit.
Yeah. Then, one year for her Christmas card, what was it? One of the agents, the SBI agent or something, they were doing a active shooter drill and told her she needed to put her ducks in a row, so she got rubber ducky Christmas cards and had little rubber ducks all around the police department to
Hell
keep
yeah.
her ducks in a row.
I'll tell you who'd be a fun guy to have on this podcast. Would be Robert Ivy from Robinson Community College.
Yes.
He was an ALE agent.
No, Robert.
And he just,
Yes.
he runs the program down there. I think we're going to try to get him on maybe for, I don't know when, but I guess we're going to shoot one in May down there. We're doing a big training. So hopefully that'll come to fruition.
Hopefully.
You got some people coming to that class?
I do.
Yes.
I do.
Have they pre-registered?
No, but I got the link the other day.
Okay, please do.
We'll send that out.
Mr. Ivy gets persnickety about pre-registration.
Yeah, especially when you show up and crash a course.
Yeah, well,
Just
I mean,
out of the blue.
Yeah, he doesn't care about that. He just wants to make sure that he's going to make his money.
Yeah.
I don't blame him.
What?
It's courtesy too.
Yeah.
That's just it.
It's respect.
Yeah, I'm with you. Absolutely with you.
But I've got a good merge between the two, being the bull in the china shop, but being able to calculate my step and not break everything in my path.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. You told me to go fuck myself and smiled. And, what do you say to somebody? Are they ever going to get there? You hear that siren?
That is Sampson County EMS.
Oh, they got a cardiac arrest is what that was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, are they ever going to get there? I've just heard sirens in my ear. I don't know if you
It's
can
in
hear it.
Turkey.
All right. Oh, you got the CAD pulled up?
Yeah.
All right, 10-4. So, what's next? What's next in the fire service? What's coming? What should we be prepared for?
My generation.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
And it is the generation of my generation is retiring out.
Yep.
Well, and we're retiring. Here I am. I got 30 plus years in the fire service.
Yep. You're tired, right? A little bit.
Am I tired?
Yeah. Depends on the day.
Yeah. I love this job. Man, I love this job. I love this job. I love being a fireman. There is truly nothing like being a fireman. I still get chills and the hair stands up on the back of my neck and on my arms when I hear the cue and I hear a good set of air horns. I love this job.
Right.
You're around the corner, you look up, and man, you see the big thermal column. It's like, oh man, we're going to
We're
job
going to work.
town. Yeah,
Let's
punch
go
in,
job town.
punch in, boys and girls.
Yeah.
It's time to go to work. We get to do fireman stuff.
What we've trained for.
That's our
Yes.
job. But we're now in the days of technology.
Yeah.
And technology is we have drones. We have...
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about drones specifically?
It's a tool in the toolbox if used appropriately. Do I have the thought of there's a place for a drone on the fireground? I don't think as an incident commander we need to get so... I'll put the screen of a drone in the same place I put the screen of a thermal imaging camera. Don't get so set forth that you look at the screen and forget your basic right-hand search, left-hand search techniques. And bringing back the basics. Well, okay, we shouldn't have to bring back the basics. We should have a good working knowledge of our basics. Now, having that working knowledge of our basics means that we throw ladders, we drag hose, we connect the hydrants, we save the people. As an incident commander, you do your lap around the house or you do your lap around the building where you can, and you're looking for the obvious rescue conditions. Those are the parts of our job. We shouldn't have to go teaching those basics over and over again, but that's not saying that we don't train to the basics.
I think that's very good. Every day is a training day.
Every day is a training day. Thank you, Billy.
Yes.
And if you're going to do something, do it right.
Yes.
And a lot of this job has become, and I'll say it, I'm guilty of it, we've become complacent.
Yes.
And like, we go to a fire alarm and guys' coats aren't buttoned up, no SCBA. I was talking with Curtis today, and the guilty party will go unmentioned. But his pet peeve is guys that don't wear their waist straps.
And I don't understand that. That goes back to the basics. Air packs were made to be worn on your hips. They were not made to be worn on your shoulders. Well, I can wear them on my shoulders. That's just fine. And okay, but you're tiring yourself out. Put that weight on your hips.
Yeah.
That's kind of ironic. The sirens in the background, as a matter
beautiful.
of fact.
I love it.
But air packs were designed to be worn on your hips. Put the weight on your hips so you have mobility and function and your arms are free. That's some of training to the basics that we don't do anymore.
But a lot of this job has become, I'll say something, they don't pay us enough. That's what they say. I hear it all the time. And I've had some very spirited discussions with people. One thing I was taught early on, I remember my first car, because I had a truck. They said, get you a shitty car and drive to the firehouse.
Yes.
Do not drive your pickup. Do not drive your brand new car. Do not drive your fancy motorcycle. Drive a ugly car. It's okay to have the nice thing, but buy you a get around town daily driver.
Yep.
And, I mean, that's stuck with me. I don't see the point, especially if you work in our industry, of taking your nice vehicle to work, because let's face it, if you want to be in a firehouse, you want to be in usually the bad part of town, as they say in air quotes, bad part.
Yes.
And
yes.
God bless the ghetto. And you want to go to those, and those places typically don't have the best crime statistics. I mean, firehouses still get robbed if the doors are left up,
Well, yeah.
or doors unlocked, and you don't want to drive a fancy car, but then you don't want the city administrator driving by and seeing you having a fancy car either. When you drive a better car than the city administrator, it's not a good look, in my opinion.
And I can see that.
It's one thing to be proud, but it's another thing, like, you're going to drive an $80,000 pickup to the firehouse and you only make $35,000 a year. And I've said it before on this, and I'm not beating the dead horse, but did you not know the salary when you signed up, took the test? Did you not know? Is this a mystery to you? Did you not know what a fireman was? Did nobody tell you? And now everybody wants to gripe and complain. Well, they don't pay us enough. Well, what are you doing well, they don't pay me for what I do. They pay me for what I will do. Well, what can you do? You don't wear your PPE correctly. You don't wear your SCBA correctly. You don't come off the rig with tools in your hand. You don't move with a purpose. You don't stretch hand lines with a purpose. You flake it out. Let me tell you, I went up to West Virginia and worked a couple weeks ago, and had a great time. And I was chauffeuring. And we washed every piece of equipment in the downtown firehouse. Went up and we fueled everything. It was a good Saturday, and it was right before Easter, and we picked a fire afterwards. And everybody that was on that engine grabbed a taller gear, because we hit the stairs. We first got in dispatch for a smoke investigation. We hit the stairs, and they confirmed a working fire with the reporting party. And everybody down the stairs, and we were out the door in 45 seconds.
And that's what you want.
And we got there. And so I personally don't like driving with boots on.
Okay.
But I also like to get dressed fast. So my initial thought was there was one of the captains, I think he was a captain, or let's say senior member, because I think he is a senior member now. He's a volunteer, and we heard him check on scene, and he started giving a 360, and I was like, and he confirmed. And so the guy that I was driving, Randy, says, beach it, and I wasn't about to beach it. I made the turn into the driveway and got in there, and I set my pump, and I got out to my compartment, and the fireman had the line stretched. We were at the front door, and I was putting my face piece on with the fireman, who came out of the back seat dressed ready to go. And the senior member took over the pump panel and said, it's got to be on the Charlie side. We went in, and it was a fire, but the crew performed seamlessly. Two of us had never worked together before. We'd only known each other, but our training worked together. But we had worked together all day. We had talked about, if this happens, this is what's going to happen. If we go to this type of call, we're going to adjust. But a lot of those conversations don't happen anymore. It's
No, they don't.
guys want to go to their bedroom. At least that's my opinion.
Well,
Xbox.
What?
Fair.
And I think, and now realize I grew up in the fire service and from Salisbury in the High Point, where we had, as we affectionately refer to, general population.
Yep.
We had Gen Pop. The captain, he had his own bedroom, he had his own bathroom.
Rank has its privileges.
It does. And in Gen Pop, at 3 o'clock in the morning, when Mikey is snoring on the other side of the bedroom, and you hum a roll of toilet paper at him to get him to roll over. You know, you learn a lot about each other. That's where you become family in that in that bedroom. You know, you talk about it, and it's just like what you said. You sit back and you talk about, man, we did this, or we did this, or we're gonna do this, or we're gonna do that, and we have a fire tonight. How we start looking at those things, or you sit back and you have a table. You have the cutting table, as we called it. You know, we had the cutting table on the back of the apparatus floor. We don't have the apparatus floor discussions like we used to because everybody wants to go to their cubicle.
There is no more bumper time.
No, we don't have the front. And I get so aggravated when I hear, and I go to Chiefs, I go to Midwinter, I'll go to Safer, I'll go to this Chiefs conference or that Chiefs conference, and they talk about guys want to sit out front. Man, open the doors. Let your guys sit outside in chairs and be members of the community. And
it shows the community that you're there and you're willing, you know, if they have questions, they can come up to the bay, come through the bay doors and ask.
People forget that it's their house.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's the taxpayer's house. It's their house. It's our house just whatever day of the month we're working, and we go into that. But be part of the community, and that's a lot of it.
So after that fire, it's funny you mentioned that. The battalion chief that I was working with that day, we love to smoke cigars. And he did the same thing when I pulled one of those 70 by 70s out in front of you. He was said, "Holy shit, we're going to be here a while." And I said, "Yes, we are."
Yes, we are.
And we rolled up the bay doors, and we pulled all the chairs out and got folding chairs, and we sat in front of the firehouse. I grew up with the term calling it ramping.
Yes.
And we ramped, and really nobody was on their phones. Guys were sitting there. I mean, we've watched UFC fights. We've done all sorts of stuff. But there is a camaraderie there.
Yes.
The text messages that I got, man, it was good to see you. We don't get to see you enough. We love it when you come to town and work, yada, yada, yada. And, you know, I'm looking at a picture right now of us just sitting there having a good time. And that doesn't happen. Cigars, for me, they are a social activity, but they bring people together.
Yes.
And if you're sitting there and you're having one, it's not like you can just walk away. You know, and we had a kid that is going to graduate becoming a cop, and he's a fireman's son, and he stopped being a fireman to go to policeman school. I don't know what you call it, the academy?
BLET.
Okay. And he's going to graduate soon, and he stopped by and he's like, "Man, this is cool. You know, like, we don't have this." And I'm like, "Yeah, we know." You know, but they don't. Like, cops and firemen are two different professions, two different disciplines, but same team.
And,
yes.
Yeah, we're the same team, but it's two different mindsets.
Yes.
And I can say that from
being married to one.
Being married to one, and my daughter will tell you it's two completely different mindsets. Law enforcement are taught to be individuals, to work alone, to work in that aspect, where we are taught
work as a team.
To work as a team. Exactly.
Yeah. So how do you resolve conflict as a boss? Not citing any specific examples, but how do you promote that culture? And I hate to use the word culture all the time because it's in our mantra. But how do you resolve conflict? Me as a chief, I don't want to know every little thing.
And I don't need it. If it hits my office and I have to step in, I'm going to step in as a chief. And I'm going to look at how it's affected by policy.
Okay.
Is there a policy violation? Now, there are times that we have coaching sessions. And we can go, "Man, what are you doing? This isn't right. You know, you can't do this. You can't do," you know, we're not supposed to do that. Think about it. Okay. But if it's a true conflict that a captain brings to me or an assistant chief brings to me, then I'm going to have to step in and be a chief. If it's the biggest fights in the firehouse, in a career firehouse, is who drank all the milk, who used all the ketchup,
Who didn't pay their committee fee?
who didn't pay their kitty fee. I remember it.
Mine is who keeps stealing my daggone garlic powder.
Yeah. Who's using the ranch dressing?
Yes.
Oh God, ranch dressing. Too.
Ranch dressing, and I was assigned to a firehouse where we had a kitty fee, and the kitty paid the newspaper. We had newspapers delivered to the firehouse,
You
and they
really
weren't
just
free.
aged yourself.
Yeah, you're right. I'm in a couple of those, but one guy's at the cutting table and he's reading the newspaper, and another guy that will remain nameless lights the bottom corner of his newspaper on fire.
I bet he lost his teetotal shit.
He come unglued, and it was real simple. Listen, you're 3 months behind on your kitty fee. You're not should be able to read the darn newspaper as it is.
It's fair.
It's not wrong.
It's the sugar for the coffee. Sugar is not made, here we are in the South. Sugar is not bought by the kitty for you to utilize in your sweet tea. You don't need an IV solution full of sugar water and tea bags.
Rude.
So the kitty doesn't buy that. That's your shift responsibility. But if a problem comes to me, I'm going to have to step in as a chief. Captains, and I don't know about you, and I know Whitley didn't get one when she was promoted to lieutenant. Nobody handed me a 3-ring binder and said, "Here, this is the answer to all of the problems you're gonna have as a supervisor. You just look in this Bible and you're okay."
Yeah, here's the golden. Here's.
And
the
then
road.
you have ones like me. You have firemen like me. That's a supervisory nightmare. Just nightmare.
Explain that.
Oh, that goes.
Explain why it's a nightmare.
Oh, that's the up generation. That's me. Tell me why. Explain to me. You go back to the aspect of if you involve me, I understand. If I question, it's because I don't understand. And teach me. But we like to put. Oh God, we push. I push. She does the edge of the envelope
Consistently.
consistently.
Habitual line stepper.
Yes. No, line toter. I toe that line. I don't try to step over it, but I do like to see how close I can get.
I wouldn't say that I step, but boy,
I'm right there on it.
They say that if a ball touches the line, it's fair
See? That's my mindset.
in like baseball, right? But if you touch it in football, you're out. I don't know the rule for hockey. Hockey's tough, but I love hockey. It's so brutal.
Yes,
I love hockey. We watched, Christy and I, we just went to New York and we watched a great junior hockey game up there. It was hockey game, match, whatever, but we had a really good time. It was like $16. Got entertained. It was absolutely fabulous. So this generation, because it's different than ours,
Yes.
a lot of them are computer driven. A lot of them they're good at data. They like the computer aspect. They like that, but the why, tell me why. Like Phil would always say, how come?
A fireman knows how. A good fireman knows why.
Right, but there's also, would you agree that there's a time and a place?
Absolutely. And the fire ground is not the place.
No.
Training ground is.
I had to write a paper for an assessment center, and I thought I nailed it. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I thought I did a great job. A lot of people told me that I did because I sent it out for peer review before I sent that bad boy in. But it asked about the leadership style that you'll employ. And I don't even remember the 2 types that I said, but there's a ton of leadership styles. And here's the one thing I don't understand. Why do we spend so much time trying to be liked when, hell, we don't like everybody as it is?
Exactly. I don't like myself half the time.
I mean, listen, I may not agree with you politically or personally, or hell, we may see eye to eye on everything. That doesn't mean we can't work together. It doesn't mean that, I don't have to be friends and hang out with you. I worked with a chief one time that, speaking of kitty fees, he wanted wood top sauce. You know what that is? That Chihuahua sauce?
Okay.
Cholula?
Yeah, Chihuahua.
Cholula?
Whatever. It's
It's the hot sauce. They have it at IHOP.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's the wood top.
Yeah.
Well, the chief wasn't paying into the fund.
Then you don't have a say.
Oh, no, but he was a chief.
I don't care.
He was a chief.
I don't care.
That's what I said.
Guess what?
I was the outcast.
No.
Because I didn't go fishing. Because I wasn't, but he wanted to eat it on his eggs in the morning. Well,
Bring it.
Where do you think the eggs came from?
Thank you.
They come from right there at the Ponderosa, from Mama's Chickens. That's where the eggs are coming from. Don't. But some people get so entrained on their own way of thought that they don't come out of their own way of thinking.
Or they get bent out of shape when they're asking a question because you have a different perspective.
Correct. I mean, Chief, let me ask you this, point blank. Your crew has to get on a different rig to go to a call. So your system is two guys, correct?
Correct.
So you can understand this. Your guys cross the floor to get on another rig. They go to a call. They leave another guy behind. So the captain and the fireman leave. And they go cut two people out of a car, both red tags. The other crew, their equipment failed. And the staff there was not capable of handling the complexity of the incident. The other two show up, get it done. Each one of them takes a car, blows out the B-posts, gone, done, good outcome. Both patients live. It's noteworthy to note that in the one car, the spare tire was on top of the driver's head from the trunk. That's how much force was used.
Wow.
So, captain comes back. Next day, totes paperwork. Because he didn't send the driver out. Well, the driver wasn't very competent in his skills, and they had just run a drill over this. So the captain had knowledge that the chief didn't have. And the captain made a decision to go then and do what was best for the outcome of what was needed, what he had in front of him. You're only set up to handle one call at a time as it is. Mm-hmm. Would it have been nice to have a third set of hands? Probably.
I would, in my organization, if guys have to jump from the squad to the ladder to ride that call, if it's a commercial fire alarm, all of them go. We're not leaving people behind.
Right.
All three, if there are three, say we were running today. Today my crew was running 5, was my shift personnel.
Okay.
I had 3 on the squad, 2 on engine 2. Myself and the fire inspector, if it would have come to an issue, would have jumped on engine 1 and we would have put engine 1 in service.
That would have broke your heart.
Why?
I'm just saying it would have broke your heart because you would have loved to have. You would have loved to.
Yeah.
I mean, I would too. I absolutely would.
But if they're riding 3 on the rescue, or 3 on the squad,
sure,
all 3 will get on the ladder.
Okay.
We don't leave anybody behind.
So you have a contingency plan for somebody to come and backfill if something happens.
Yes, as a municipal fire chief in the state of North Carolina, I am required to ensure that fire protection for my municipality is covered.
Correct.
I have served at that backfill.
Yeah, and I backfill a lot, to the point of I put a lock box on the back of the station that my volunteer second and third due companies, they know how to get in. They know how to get out of the rain. They know how to get out of the cold. They can get to the drink machine. They can get to the bathrooms. They can get to the coffee pot.
But don't you read my newspaper.
Right?
So, would you write the captain up?
I would consider that a training issue. I probably would not have encouraged paperwork on it.
Sure.
I would have had a coaching session.
Sure.
What's going on? Why did you make the decision you did?
Yep.
And next time, I would like for you to consider making the decision, keeping these points in mind.
Sure. That's not what happened, because I'm the captain. That is not what happened. So it was 7 in the morning. Was called into the office at shift change, and was sat down very aggressively. And I don't take kind to being yelled at that early in the morning.
Why yell? As adults, why
I don't know.
do we ever yell?
I mean, if I need to get your attention, that's one thing. But
That's called speaking with authority.
But when we're in a room together, if I drop my tone, I can't even do it. But when I drop my tone, like, people know that that's like serious time.
Yes.
And it made no sense to me why I was being yelled at. And so my question was, okay, you keep telling me this. Where's the policy? If you're going to sit here and hang on this, show me the policy.
Yeah.
And he said, you can leave. And then, so as I was packing up my stuff, I was packing everything up, and there was a policy on the board. just that quick.
Out of the blue.
Out of the blue. And I said, okay. So I was going on my 4-day break, and just happened to know that the other crew had split and done the same thing, and nobody toted paperwork.
Now, I like policy. I do. I'm a very policy-driven individual.
Yes, you are.
I come from a very militaristic organization, working 20 plus years for this organization, and things were black and white. You did this, you did this, you did this, you did this.
Right.
And
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I cannot write as a fire chief. I cannot write a policy to cover every issue. To me, policies go back to does your mustache impede with the seal of your face mask? You'll be at work at 7 o'clock at shift change. You'll be properly dressed. You will check your truck every day.
Right.
You will drive with bunker pants and bunker boots on. This is a policy.
Sure.
I'm more of a guideline kind of guy. I like a guideline because I'm not going to tell you to pull 1 3/4 inches on this house fire, but you better not get yourself beat back down the hallway because you didn't have enough water.
Yeah, big fire. You better go after it.
Exactly.
We go to one place and teach quite regularly that they're not allowed to pull 2.5.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
Don't know, because they say there's a policy. The policy does not exist.
That's just it.
It's fear.
Show me. See, and I do not. I don't think I do, and I hope my guys would back me up on this. I don't govern by fear. I would rather govern by respect. And am I the greatest thing in the world since store-bought sliced bread? No, by not any means. But let's sit down. I can't do this job by myself, and I cannot sit down and write a policy that says you'll do this, you'll do this, you'll do this. But let's use a guideline, and the guideline is where the training ground comes into play. The best company officers I ever had, they didn't tell us what to do when we went to the training ground. They didn't tell us what to do when we went to the fire ground because we had already trained on it. We knew what we were going to do.
Right. I mean, I have no problem. Hey. If you're in the front, hey chief, hey cap, what do you want us to pull? Let's go with the 2.5. Let's go 2.5 on this one.
As the man over your heart, right there, taught me. As in this job, we're supposed to deliver more GPMs than the BTUs being put out.
Correct.
Whether it comes from a smooth bore or a fog, they both have their place.
That's right.
That BRT, that big red truck, is nothing but a rolling toolbox.
Yep.
You have to be adaptable. You have to have comprehension of what your crew can do as a company officer.
Yep.
You have to have comprehension of what your newest person can do, your newest fireman can do, sitting in the back, that tailboard. And you got to know your strengths and your weaknesses of your driver.
And if you have weaknesses, you should probably get them trained up.
And you get them. Training is not a whipping post. Oh, I don't want to go train. It's too hot. It's too cold. Training is not a whipping post. Training is a place where you get to do the unusual. Hey, let's think outside the box on this one.
What do you think about discipline? People think discipline's a bad word.
Why do we use discipline? Why do we use and I can say this as an administrator.
Sure.
Why do we use discipline? We utilize discipline to change a behavior.
And I look at it as discipline as the first thing I'm going to do if my shift changes at 5, or I'm sorry, if my shift changes at 7, I'm going to be there at about 6:15. Wait for the other guys to get up. I'm probably going to check my rig as a courtesy to those guys going out so they can go. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to make my bed. And I know that's crazy, but that's me. You know how you have Skippyisms?
Yeah.
That's a me. I don't enforce that upon anybody. That is a me thing. I want my rig checked out before I actually have to go use it. And then I'll take my pass on, and then I want my day started. But I don't want to have to sit till 8, 9 o'clock in the morning visiting with people. Like, if we want to go out and check the rig together, and we want to go out and pull things off, like Matt posted something the other day, and he sent it to me. I love this. He sent it to me. He says, the face your ladders make every time they see you repacking your hose so perfectly.
Thank you.
People forget about our portable ladders and the grime and the grit and the nasty shit. We don't pull the ladders off and clean them. We certainly don't pull off the ladders and clean behind them. I don't know the last time that I've seen somebody other than people I work with pulling them out of the tube or putting them off the side.
Even pulling them off the side, how many times do we look at how the ladders are arranged on the rig itself? You can look at a rig, and you've been all over the country just like I have, and you can look at a rig and see where a rig is set up for a parade or a rig is set up to be used, combat ready.
How do you feel about this, too? I was talking with the chief. These competitions, I call them buff competitions because that's what they are in New York.
Oh, you're talking about the fire truck drag racing?
Yeah.
Oh, let's go, bro. I'll
that
drive.
speaks to my soul.
Yes.
So, but like these guys are judged on how their compartments look. Like they're actually like they would come to you and say, Skippy, I need you to come such and such a date. We're going to have not a muster, but we're going to have a fireman's weekend or whatever, fireman's day. And they're going to bring in all the apparatus from the county or one piece, and they're going to judge it on cleanliness. They're going to judge it on this, this, and this, and how the compartments are laid out. I don't understand personally, and I know you got a lot to say on this. I personally feel we put too much shit
On fire trucks.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because we don't have the proper staffing.
To utilize all the shit on fire trucks.
So we throw it all together. And so I want to hear that point, and then I've got a burning question I want to ask you. So go ahead.
Number one, I would love to go judge something like that, but is it a fair playing field across the board with everybody there? Are we loading that truck to be utilized in the heat of battle? Are we loading that truck to look pretty? And why? Here's one for you. Why do we have to order a truck that's 18 inches longer, carries 50 more gallons of water than our neighboring organization? Why do we not order trucks and get trucks that are built specifically for what our district needs?
Why do we let apparatus salesmen tell us what we need?
That part.
I'll have to say, when I came to my current employer, they had already started looking at specifying a new rig, and I have heard so many compliments. Man, your guys designed a good rig. You're right. My guys designed what this municipality needs.
Right. Not what I want.
Not what I want.
I've heard fire chiefs say that this piece of equipment's going to be my legacy. I've heard it.
No, your legacy is how well you prepared somebody else to take over in your absence.
That's right.
That's your legacy.
How do they deal without
not
you?
purple carpet in the TV room or great new recliners. The big joke, we're in the process of replacing some furniture at our organization. I've been ordering good firehouse furniture.
Not this end up?
No, not this end up. No. I would love to give a shameless plug to my brother out there, and he knows where he's at in Mebane, North Carolina. And we order firehouse furniture because firemen are rough on stuff, man. You cannot go and get Rhodes furniture or a box store furniture. Firemen are going to beat it up. You've got to buy something that's quality. The legacy I'm leaving is, man, I bought them some great beds and some great recliners.
I mean,
okay.
It's good, comfortable.
That's a joke. I mean, and that's a joke.
No, it's comfortable.
But
I'm with you.
if the guys need it, put forth the money to make sure it lasts, because the furniture I bought's got warranties on it.
Oh, you bought the good stuff.
I bought the good stuff.
Did you get the embroidery too?
Yes, I did, which was free.
Because that's Phil's pet peeve. You ought to tell him, because you'll probably see him before this comes out. You have to absolutely tell him, hey, I did something in your honor. And just
hell.
We may call him afterwards and tell him, just because I can't wait that long. Because it'll just...
You may take a picture of it and send it to you?
It'll fry his ass. It's just one of his pet peeves. I mean, look.
Okay, it's a station pride thing.
It is, but
it is a station pride thing, and having company banners and company flags and company
decals.
T-shirts, decals.
What do you
Trade shirts.
What do you think about leather helmets?
As far as I have one, I wear one.
No, but
with a gold front.
So let's say.
Oh, you had to throw that in there, didn't you?
He had. plop on the table.
I'm telling you, just bam.
Every time.
Like a baby
In the
arm.
deep end of the pool, too. So, okay, so say the agency can't afford it. Okay? Most agencies can't afford a leather helmet.
Most agencies can't afford them.
Guys wants to come in, wants to have a little pride. My take on it as an administrator is, hey, if that's what it's going to take for you to wear your helmet properly, and you're willing to make that investment in your personal safety, and it meets all the requirements, and you're not going to hold me liable if you ruin it, I'm good with it.
And is it in date?
Yep.
And does it meet specification?
Correct.
I don't have an issue with it.
Because maybe you'll wear it.
That's like wearing a truckman's belt. I don't provide truckman's belts. We were talking the other day at work and ordering leather suspenders. Radio straps. Where do you carry your radio strap?
Under your coat.
Under your coat.
Under your coat.
And why?
So that the radio is protected. But, there's
And the cord's the first thing to fail.
Exactly.
At 145 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, your face mask is designed to melt out at 300 degrees.
Yeah. It starts crazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if a brother wants to wear a leather helmet, okay.
Hell, the leather helmet weighs more than Whitley.
He does. and
Yeah.
And now you go back to the daddy thing here. Several years ago at the South Atlantic Fire and Rescue Expo, I bought two.
You did, didn't you?
I
He
did.
did.
I bought two. I bought a white one and a black one. I bought what I thought would be or probably will be the last leather helmet of my active fire service career. But I bought her the first leather helmet of her active fire service career.
See, and that's cool because a lot of dads will do that for their sons, but you do, again, like what we led with, we don't hear a lot about
Fathers and daughters.
yeah, and you know what? It is an amazing thing to sit here and listen to this because the interaction is great. I'm enjoying the shit out of this. I do have a burning question because this is a hot button topic. Scratches on fire apparatus. You're driving down the road. Low hanging tree. Lay it on me.
Are we going to a call for service?
Absolutely.
Katie, bar the door. It's a work truck. We'll worry about the scratches later. We'll buff them out. As a company, we'll say, hey, man, we're going to wax the truck Saturday. I'm going to take a little bit. B shift's going to take a little bit. C shift's going to take a little bit. We waxed our trucks in High Point every 6 months. A clean truck is a happy fire truck.
Sure.
One shift took the cab. One shift took the chauffeur's side. One shift took the officer's side.
So Katie, bar the door.
Katie, bar the door. If we're going to a call for service, that person on the other end of that telephone needs my help. If they didn't need my help, they wouldn't have called 911.
I'm gonna say this because I'll probably never work for you. The world needs more chiefs like you.
There goes that ego.
No.
Well, and the reason I say that is it is simply a piece of equipment. Do you think that Public Works gets mad when they scratch their dozer?
No, that's what it's designed for.
Do you think the guy that's picking up the trash cans gets pissed when they dump? No.
No.
But we have pride, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, it is a work truck.
The pride goes when you go back to the house and you repack the hose bed because it didn't look quite right. The pride goes back is when you go back and you repack the attack lines because they didn't pull off just right. The pride goes back is everybody jumps in to wash the rig. It's turn two. You ever heard that phrase of turn two?
Yep.
You turn to the needs of the apparatus and the organization before you turn to your needs. You wash the truck before you go take a shower.
The men, the mission, and me.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I have to say, Whitley was raised under that type of mindset, both from me and her mother.
Being the only female on chief, we'd catch a job, come back, get everything back in service. Being the only female, hey, go take a shower, you're going to need it, you have the bathroom. No. Well, I'm telling you, and I'm telling you no. I'm not doing that. Truck's not back in service. Shit's not clean. I'm out here just as much as you are. It's still my truck. It's still my job. I'm coming out here. I'm finishing the job with you before we get done. Before I go take a shower.
Go ahead.
Do you not realize you can take that same mindset and turn that into an everyday training evolution. You take everything out of a compartment and you wipe down the compartment, and then you wipe down everything that goes in the compartment, and then you discuss it as you put it back in. You learn, you should be, as a firefighter, you should be a master of every tool on your assigned apparatus. As a chauffeur of that truck, you should know where everything's at on that apparatus. As a company officer, when I was a company officer, I shouldn't have to tell you in what compartment a tool is located. In the first 6 months, it's okay that I'm going to send you after a hose stretcher.
Yes, sir.
But after that 6 months, you should be able to look at me and go, oh, bullshit, boss. I know better than that. I don't need to stand up on the top of the truck with a paddle to stir the water in the tank.
To keep
for
it from
pH.
freezing.
Or to keep it from... You shouldn't have to tell me to take the air, the winter air, and replace it with summer air.
In the tires.
Sure.
Those are fun things that build camaraderie in the station. But, after a while...
It's not hazing.
It's not hazing. It's everybody paying their dues. And when you learn what every piece of equipment is on that truck and what it's used for, you should be an expert on every piece of equipment on that truck, knowing that you take the fork ends of a Halligan and you can use that to turn off a commercial natural gas service to a commercial occupancy.
What is this tomfoolery you speak of?
This tomfoolery is called knowing your job. Have some love for the job.
It's not taught.
No, it's not.
It's not taught, Chief. It is not taught. I mean, it is thankful we get to go out and do that.
You got to learn the long way
But
before you can learn the tricks of the
We
trade.
we are so ingrained in learning the tricks of the trade that we don't take the time to learn the trade. And a wise man once taught me that, who did the Tools of the Trade series, Rick Fritz, who was one of my training chiefs. I love Rick to death. And he taught me that we don't take time to teach the trade. We don't take the time to teach that 3-month guy, 6-month guy to be that senior guy. He needs to understand what that truck can do and what it can't do. We don't take time to let that driver learn his truck so he can tell when that truck's fixing to cavitate.
One thing I have noticed is that the guy driving doesn't want to give up driving. And if he's got to drive to the emergency, that's fine. Let somebody else drive back.
Why not?
And that's a missed opportunity.
How I handled that as a company officer, I'd sit in the back for the tour, for the 24-hour tour. I'm riding the back today. My driver's riding over. My senior firefighter is riding up. And you think, well, why in the world would you do that? Well, I have to evaluate my driver on his ability to lead the company and exercise good fireground judgment and be a good supervisor in my absence. The key to that is my absence. When do I ever get the opportunity to evaluate him for his 6-month evaluation?
Right.
If I don't watch him do it. I teach him how I want him to do it on the training ground,
Right.
But then I ride in the back of the truck and I ride as the fireman.
So how do you combat the I'm not getting paid for that job? There are people that will complain about that. Well, I'm not being paid for that job, so why should I do it?
Well, right here in your job description that says other duties as assigned. And guess who assigns those duties?
Me.
I do.
Amen.
And if you don't want to, if you don't want to test and promote to chauffeur, or you don't want to test and promote to be a company officer, that's fine. Be the best damn fireman you can be. But being the best damn fireman you can be goes back to learning that job of the man above you and teaching your job to the man below you.
Succession planning. Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's a foreign concept to some. It really is.
Oh, I got looked at like I had 3 heads when I asked about succession planning in one of the last interviews for a full-time job that I had.
Wow.
Yeah. They had no clue what I was talking about, but they also told me NIMS 300 and 400 was just uncommon to have.
It's not uncommon.
No.
Maybe to some people. Some people just stop with the 1, 2, 7, and 8 series because you can get it online and it's easy and the answers are already on the website.
And the thing about it is I've been qualified to teach 7, 8, 1, and 2, 3, and 4.
Yep.
I teach 7, 8, 1, and 2 in an instructor setting, but give them the website to go challenge the test, if you will.
Right.
And I just taught this in Bladenboro. That's a plug for you, Tater. I just taught this in Bladenboro, 700 and 100, to give some aspect of why we do what we do.
Right.
There's a difference, and there's a method to the madness, and we've got to understand the method before we ever know the madness.
I think that the hardest thing is when somebody comes through the door, let's just say volunteer, because that's the majority of the fire service. Most people start there. That's where they get their burning passion, is they start there and then they go forward in their career. But at that point, they're a liability. They're not an asset. They have no training, so they start checking boxes, right? The sooner I get boxes checked, the faster I can get on the rig and start going. And talking with the guys in West Virginia, I guess their legislature passed something to where they're going to let people function everywhere but IDLH inside up to 5 years before they require certification. Now, North Carolina, we don't really have anything. It's just if you have 1403, your chief signs off on you, you're blessed, you're good to go.
Whoa. 1403 is a standard for what?
Well, live burn.
Okay. Now, there's a lot of folks, I'm going to jump on this before you do. 1403 is misconfused.
Misconstrued.
It is misconstrued
You've had
and
a
confused.
long day. It's budget season.
Yes, it is. It's confused that I've got my 1403, I'm good to go.
Correct.
No. Let's look at it. Let's look at what you just said. 1403 is the live fire standard as dictated by NFPA.
Correct.
To participate in a live fire training evolution
Correct.
with a senior firefighter
Leading.
and a active live fire qualified instructor, you can participate.
It goes back to that fine line between okay and oh shit.
Yeah.
Right. But that has become the standard, I should say.
Yes.
Not my standard and not my interpretation of
It's
it.
the
all-
accepted practice.
Correct.
It's not even a standard, it's an accepted practice.
And I think that the other crutch of that is that OSHA doesn't really worry about the volunteer fire service.
Nope.
They worry about...
Not on that aspect.
Correct. And so here we go with, we can get away with it. It's never bit us yet. And we have a bunch of people that are, one, uneducated, and two, untrained, and they're unconsciously incompetent.
Yes.
So we have I got you there, didn't I?
I wouldn't even say unconsciously incompetent. They're consciously
Incompetent.
because we've been pushing certification in this state, and this is probably going to open up a bunch of hate mail.
No.
We've been pushing certification in this state.
I can click delete with the best of them, bro.
Thank you. For 25 plus years. And I'm not saying that certification is nothing more than the fire chief to eliminate civil liability.
Correct.
I've been trained. You've sat through the class and you've done the practicals, so you've got the cognitive and the psychomotor, and you passed a test. Congratulations. Now you take what you've just learned. When I would do a recruit academy, and I would tell recruits on the night they've graduated, okay, you've completed your certification, you have just enough education to be what?
Dangerous.
It's almost like we've talked before.
I know.
We should just start recording our conversations, but
No.
then that gets us in trouble.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
Well, speaking of getting you out of trouble, one of our great partners, FireDecks, provides some of the best gear that I've worn in 23 years. It's the only gear currently on the market that is PFAS and PFOA free. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's a long-chain carbon atom that is a known carcinogen, has been put in our turnout gear. The fine folks at FireDecks up in Medina, Ohio, have been working hard to eliminate that and take away some liability on our aspect, but giving us gear that weighs, on average, 4 pounds lighter. So FireDecks, for sure, thank you. We talked about Bob Farrell and the work that he does with Firehooks Unlimited. I am actually giddy about I love going to the city because I love going to Delmonico's and
Get a steak.
yes,
Get a steak.
Yeah, and some foie gras. But getting Captain Farrell on the podcast, as well as utilizing his tools, we are an authorized distributor and trainer for Firehooks Unlimited. If you need anything at all, you can visit us on the interwebs at box1971.com. Go to the online store. If there's something there or you want something that's not listed, because we did not list his whole entire, I think, 75-page catalog, you can email us at training@box1971.com, and we will get back with you. We take great pride in knowing that we're putting the best tools that money can buy in firemen's hands. Lastly, Matex Hose. Toby Matthews providing great hose for the fire service. We are super happy with everything with Matex Hose out of Dothan, Alabama.
So you were talking about gear. Y'all got one of the partners for fire decks, right?
Yeah, fire decks. Yeah,
how do they deal with sizing for small-framed females?
You know, that would be a fire decks question.
Well, you're the man with the connections.
Yeah, Tim Halls, who I normally deal with, he's in West Virginia. There's another guy, Gary Workman, who does a lot of sizing and gearing. And then there's also here in North Carolina, I don't know who's the rep for this area where you live, but I can't even remember her name. I just saw her the other day, too. She works for MES, Kelly. So I've heard a lot of things about certain types of gear, and I'm just going to say it. Inatex has said that they're owned by Bombardier, which makes skis outfits, and they said it's athletic fit. Big John wore a set of Inatex. He's not really a fan
I have
of it.
Inatex.
I had a set of wear trial gear, and I wasn't really impressed with it. The TPP, THL, all that is the same as any other gear because it's all the same manufacturer. But when they put it together, it's all about cut, form, and finish.
Yes. And
I would say Christy, my wife, she wears fire decks, and I don't think she has any complaints. You know, when they measure it, I think that Kelly did some extra. So I wasn't there when she got measured, but that's a good conversation to follow back on. Not to be like Jen Psaki and circle back, but
right, we'll circle back.
I'll get back to you.
Because I know we have Inatex at the lake, and it's not bad. I mean, I wear what I'm given, but then again, I buy all of my stuff except for coat and pants.
Sure.
Because I am so small, and it's really hard to find stuff for me
that fits.
Yeah, especially when you have to order on a department level. You know, they're not used to having midget sizes, Cabbage Patch sizes. So I'm lucky enough, you know, my dad, who he is, me, the name that I've built for myself, you know, I've made those connections, and I'm able to get stuff that I want for whatever.
Right. Well, you know, gear is tough. And because as humans, we're always growing or shrinking, depending on where you're at in your weight loss journey.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it is a it's tough to size gear. I mean, as a guy that sizes people for gear, it's very difficult to size people.
Well, you know as well as I do, if I'm going off for an off-day training, like if I'm not at work, I'm not in uniform. I'm not wearing uniform pants under gear if I don't have to. I wear leggings.
Right.
It's comfortable. I can move.
Right.
That's just, you've seen it. You've seen it firsthand. If I'm in gear and it's off day and it's me shooting the shit, I'm wearing t-shirt and leggings.
So, funny fact about Phil is we both found out that we both don't like to wear our duty pants underneath our gear.
I thought you were going to say Phil wants to wear leggings under his gear.
I mean, I probably
Phil.
have
Could you
a
imagine
pair that he
little-
could wear.
No.
Can you imagine him in Lululemons? We should get him a pair as a joke.
Deal.
One of her pair.
That'd be funny.
Bigger deal.
That is that's terrible. No, but first time we ever really went to a fire together, both of us were shucking pants and shirts and sweatshirts, and I came up under the more is better, you know. So I'd wear a sweatshirt in the summer. Oh, layers. And then I found out, no, hell no, I don't want all that extra weight. I don't want all that trapped.
Welcome to southeastern North Carolina, where it's not the heat, it's the humidity.
Yes. Yeah, it's people that say it's a dry heat in Arizona. I don't give a shit. 110 is still 110. Stick your head inside of an oven. One thing with gear, though, is what are y'all doing at your respective agencies for the big push right now, the cancer initiatives? What are you guys doing with that?
We have instituted a hood exchange program in the process of ensuring that all of my full-time staff has 2 sets of gear. And we ensure that personnel come back to the station and they strip gear down, they get it off at the at the scene if we can and clean off the biggest portion of the particulates,
Sure.
get it back to the station, strip it down, and begin laundering immediately, and put their second set of gear in service. I'm now rotating and trying to buy gear for that aspect, and they had they had a good program when I came in, and we're just trying to ensure that program sustains itself, and ensuring that personnel about every 5 years get a new set of gear. We're on a rotation. We look at life expectancy. We look at term of life for gear.
Sure.
That 10-year, we make sure that we try and start hitting for each one of those. And if we lose an employee, we'll look at who may be able to wear that gear, and their oldest set of gear will come out.
Okay.
And rotate it through.
Sure.
We haven't quite got to the position where we can buy part-time staff
Sure.
a second set of gear. That is part of the strategic planning
Okay.
of making sure that we have that in the future later on.
More of those
But-
fires,
Exactly.
figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
You've been doing a lot of traveling lately. You're not a Mason, are you?
I am, sir.
Oh, so
I am a traveling man.
little dog was headed east, huh?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't think about that until I had said it, and I was like, I didn't know if you were a traveling man for real or.
Yes, he is.
Well, that's good to know. You sent me a picture from DC that you were. What were you doing in DC?
2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go up for the Congressional Fire Service Institute, CFSI.
Okay.
Went to D.C. for the week, and as part of as a participant in the CFSI. The Wednesday and the Thursday program, I had the opportunity, beginning Monday night, to be inducted, if you will, or asked to affiliate with the National Fallen Firefighters Fellowship Program, which is there were 12 of us selected nationwide
Okay.
to start looking at strategic planning and how we're going to bring cultural change to the fire service, and that's both good and bad. And we look at what's it going to take for her generation of firefighters and the generation past her.
Sure.
And I'm very fortunate to be one of the 12 that were selected
Out
for
of the
this.
nation?
Out of the nation. There were only 12 of us nationwide. And it allows us the opportunity to network with those of us that want to leave the fire service better than the way we found it. We had the CFSI program and to attend it, but then to start working on it. It wasn't a vacation. It wasn't your typical seminar. It was an educational opportunity.
Were you meeting with politicians?
There are some that we had the opportunity to meet with. CFSI was culminated Thursday night for a dinner at the Washington Hilton, and there were some politicians present, and we had the opportunity to meet with the movers and shakers of the fire service as we know.
Sure.
The Dennis Haltons, the Bobby Haltons, the Dennis Comptons, just that caliber of individuals to have the opportunity to bounce ideas and seek guidance of where the fire service is going with this. The fellowship program allows us to network with those folks through the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, which brings us those life safety initiatives and how we're going to ensure those are brought into both career and volunteer or the fire service as a whole.
Can I ask a serious question without being an asshole?
Yes.
Why does it take 10 rules to get to heaven but 16 to be an acceptable fireman?
10 rules to get to heaven
Yep.
and 16 to be an acceptable fireman.
Yeah.
What's your definition of acceptability?
Well, I mean, you think about the life safety initiatives, right? There's 16 of them.
Correct.
Okay. If you follow the 10 commandments to get to heaven, if that's your higher power, like how I put that,
I did like that.
worshipful master. How does that? Why can't we simplify? And here's the other question that I have. Why do we need 16 initiatives when those things are all should be taught in common sense? And I know common sense isn't so common anymore.
Why is everything color coded?
Why do we have to remind people to wear their seatbelt? Like the courage to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for instance, like when you hear about people falling out of apparatus, you know, everything we do, Chief, and I know I haven't let you answer the question, but everything we do is built by the low bid. Think about it. Air packs, low bid, unless it's like we're going to go Scott or we're going to go MSA, and that's just going to be the end of it.
Yes.
If we're going to go turnout gear and we got to buy on a contract, and we're trying to save money, you're going to get low bid because that's who set the contract. If you're going to buy a piece of equipment and you're not loyal to a certain brand or certain type, it's low bid. Same with hose. You buy hose. All hose is hose is hose. Bullshit.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Hose is not hose. And just like nozzles are not nozzles.
No.
You know, there are people that can afford to have Akron. And again, we're partners with Akron. And they provide great brass, right? And then we're partnered with Crestar. And again, great nozzles. But not everybody can afford Akron. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's kind of like you want to be able to cater to everybody. And some people are loyal to a certain brand of fire engine. Certain people are, you know, helmets, you know, so on and so forth. But my main question is why... I equate it to this. Ray McCormick said it years ago when he was talking about the foundation of being a fireman. The constant safety drip makes Johnny a poor rescuer and a bad fireman.
Take it back the same generation. How much flack, how much criticism, how much lip did Tommy Brennan get off the completely safe fireground, the white issue of Fire Engineer magazine?
Oh yeah, with when they did that and put it on the white cover.
Yes.
Yes, depicting the completely safe fireground.
Yes.
Yeah, and how much shit
because
they caught.
you had the safety Nazis.
Yeah.
and this is an inherently dangerous job. You read the label on the inside of your turnout coat. You read the label on the inside of your bunker pants. You read the label on the inside of your helmet. Structural firefighting is an inherently dangerous job.
Correct.
We don't have the fires we used to, and everything about this job has changed. Everything about this job has changed. Apparatus have changed. Turnout gear has changed. Air packs have changed. Training has changed. Building construction has changed. Now we're having materials, engineered I-beams.
No, don't get me started.
Okay, so you see where I'm going. Everything about this has changed. What's the one thing that has changed constant, or that has not changed, that is constant and consistent across the board in the fire service?
I'm all ears.
The attitude of the firefighter. By God, I can just donkey kick open the front door and I'm just going to blow it out the back, by God.
By God, boat spit back. And I want you to, listening, I want you to understand, this is a conversation. This isn't my specific views. Sometimes you got to play devil's advocate and talk about things.
Mm-hmm.
And these are things that we hear. These are things that we hear on the training ground. You know, I've heard that, you know, I go to the bathroom and it's there. And I'm like, well, at least you read it, right?
Well, the greatest place to put a training memo is right above the urinal.
Yeah, or on the back of the door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I got yelled at one time for putting the Firehouse magazines on the loop in the bathroom.
Why?
It doesn't belong in there. I'm like, well, what else are you reading?
Yeah.
You know, like, take 5 minutes and the one thing we can all agree on is that firemen are we're creatures of habit, and we're somewhat lazy. We don't want to document, because document's bad. You know, just like discipline. You said discipline, and when we were talking earlier, and I didn't jump on it, discipline has different connotations for different people. Mm-hmm. I take discipline as being regimented and being disciplined. And nothing wrong with what you said.
Yeah.
But you talked about the disciplinary aspect of it.
Okay.
And does that make sense?
It does.
So there's a lot of firemen that don't have discipline, but they've been disciplined.
But how many firemen of today's stature have self-discipline to go out and catch a hydrant, But and the worst thing I hear is I don't want to go out and train in the bay by myself.
Yeah.
Why is the company officer not going out in the bay with his crew and training with his crew? Tying knots.
Excuses.
What are the excuses?
Fortunately, knock on wood, I've never really been around those individuals.
Mm-hmm.
I have.
I mean, I guess you could say that in the volunteer setting I have, where the chief won't put on his gear, doesn't do anything but talks about how it's been done, and, I can do it, and I can, I've also seen chiefs where the training has to evolve around their schedule. That's interesting to me.
Well, that goes back to the mindset of the fire service, and it hasn't changed.
No.
We still have the mindset that we can donkey kick open the front door
Yeah.
and blow it out the back.
Yep.
Well, this volunteer firehouse, my granddaddy laid the cornerstone to this volunteer firehouse, and I'm chief, and my daddy was chief, and his brother was chief, and then my granddaddy was chief, and that's great because that goes back to the tradition and the lineage of kind of like why we're here. My daughter's sitting at the end of the table,
Right.
but if we're not putting something positive on the table for the next generation, you've been a member of this organization for 30 years. What have you done in 30 years to make the organization better? To do what? What is our number one job in the fire service?
Save lives.
Save lives. Number two is protect property.
That's right.
Okay. What have you done in 30 years to better sharpen your skill set to save lives? And if you tell me that a company officer knows everything and a company officer can't learn anything from the new guy, remember, iron sharpens iron.
That's right.
The company officer can learn something from the new guy. It's all in how you look at it, and it's their attitude.
So it's perception. Like how you see it.
Yes.
Because perception is reality.
Yes.
That's interesting. That, I look at things a little different. There's been guys going to college, girls going to college for years. They come in with a degree. Mm-hmm. And degrees are good. I don't have any problem with that. When I look at somebody as a potential candidate, I look at when they ask the questions in an interview, they ask, tell us about you. That's hard. And the reason it's hard is because, are you going to tell us what kind of worker you are? Are you going to tell us that you're a Christian that has 4 dogs and you're a non-believer? Or, which route are you going to take? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's hard to gauge that room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do they really want? Mm-hmm. Do you really want to know that I'm married? Well, actually, from my perspective, I do.
I do.
Because, and maybe our reasoning's different, I want to know if somebody can tolerate the son of a bitch.
Fair enough.
If somebody,
Fair enough.
If somebody can tolerate them, that means that okay, they can get along with somebody else and they have a commitment. If they went to school, I don't care if it's a 2-year degree, 4-year degree, technical college, don't care. But it showed that you have some level of commitment.
You have to have, and doing hirings and doing promotional assessments and recently doing a promotional assessment. And in a former employer, we looked at that. Yes, certifications are fine and well and good. Yes, a college education is fine and well and good. It can be a degree in underwater ball bearing stacking. But that shows me that you have the commitment to bettering yourself. What are you doing to better yourself in your profession?
Sure.
And that shows me that you have the commitment, you have the desire, you have the drive.
Yeah.
To be a better person working underwater stacking ball bearings. Okay. That shows me that you want to do something, so you're going to have the drive. And it goes back to what? Self-discipline, as we just talked about?
Yeah.
Do you have the self-discipline for a AS degree or a BA degree or a master's degree? And that's great. Do you have the drive to make yourself better? That's what I want. That's what most fire chiefs want to employ.
Right.
I would hope most fire chiefs would want to employ, or most fire chiefs would want on their volunteer organizations. We want somebody there who's going to be a spark plug to ignite the rest of the organization. We don't want the sloth that's going to sit over in the recliner and flip TV channels.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I watching some social media stuff, and I see parodies about the rookie having to do everything. Well, you know, the rookie will pay his dues in the firehouse, be it volunteer or career.
Sure.
But when was the last time the rookie was out on the floor and the senior guy was properly teaching him how to wrap a tool?
Right.
Wrap hockey tape around his tool with a little bit of O2 tubing, and then explaining to him, this is the reason we do this, because when the tool gets wet, it gives you something to grab hold of with wet gloves.
Wait, you mean I don't have to buy a $30 product? Because that's what the deal is right now. Is everybody wants to buy these tool grip whatever that's like $30. I don't know.
What, the grip tape?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Well, why
What's
not?
wrong with hockey tape? It's like $2 a roll. You get some O2 tubing from EMS and you let it ride. That's
Yeah.
what I've been doing my entire career. Now I did have a friend that did. It's called coxcombing with paracord on my tool, and I love it. But he was super smart, and I can't braid like that. But
You know I can do that.
I did not.
Yes, I can do that.
Well, then you now have a newfound job. The next time I see you, you can wrap all of our roof hooks.
Well,
you know,
That's just it. That's like how many people understand when you put a worm gear clamp. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
A worm gear clamp on an 8-foot pipe pole or New York roofman's hook, or preferably a pipe pole. When they put it on, and the worm gear portion is on what side of the tool? Well, it's on the side of where the hook is.
right?
Or they take a wedge file, a V file, and file 3 little handholds on the side of the pipe pole that shows you where your hook is.
Right.
So when was the last time that senior guy took that new guy out on the floor and said, this is the reason we do it this way.
Right.
This is the reason we break down the high-rise pack, and we show them this is what we can do. As a company officer in a former job, I took the new guy out of Recruit Academy, and one of the first things we did was take everything off the truck, and we cleaned out compartments and was teaching him where everything was at. But I wanted him to go from a 5-inch storage connection down to a 5/8-inch garden hose, and we had everything on the truck to make all of those connections to reduce it down. You laugh.
But he did it.
Half the time they couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, and you're, if that made you chuckle, now get a hold of this one. Where did we, as a society, and I'm going to say not just the fire service, but as a society,
I like that.
start looking at the aspect? Where did we start screwing up? You're going to think about this. You're going to really...
Oof, I got a lot. The wheels are turning.
Okay. When we took jigsaw puzzles out of elementary school, what did the great big piece jigsaw puzzles teach you as a kid in kindergarten?
Critical thinking.
Thank you very much. Critical thinking, problem solving, work together as a team. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that not what the fire service is based around?
Absolutely.
What job do we go to that we don't often have to think outside the box?
Not many.
Thank you.
Here's another thing. You want to be humbled as a chief. I don't know about you, but when you are out in your district and you happen to stumble upon your first due, and you're in your cool buggy, and you pull up and you give your initial radio report, and then you're like, well,
Where's
shit.
everybody at?
That's a lonely feeling.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lonely. That's not a good place to be. Like, that's like where I'd want to drive around the block, but you can't because we all got tattletales now in the cars. But that's a lonely feeling and a humbling feeling, to say the least. You touched on something about interviews and people leaving. You said when we have a member leave. So I was talking with a buddy of mine who's a paramedic in another state. Their state had 1/3 of their paramedics not recert. Let their certifications just go. I'll be damned if I would sit in class for, what is it? How long? You were in an accelerated program, right?
Yeah, I was in 11 months.
11 months.
11
I'll be damned
months.
if I'm going to give up a year of my life to let something go. I'll be damned. I gave up, is it 80 hours for EMT basic? I can't remember.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's still too much. That's 2 weeks. I'm not letting it go. I'll go get my Con Ed. Thanks.
Yeah.
So, but 1/3 of a state's paramedics, and no increase in EMT basics. So where did all the people go?
I think a lot of the mass exodus from emergency services, and it's not just fire and EMS. I mean, law enforcement is into it as well.
Oh hell, it's an epidemic. Like
It is an epidemic. We're not having people come into our line of work, our profession, as we did in the late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s when I got into it. We don't have that sense of community. I don't want to say community pride, but maybe it's community pride. We're not going out and recruiting, actively recruiting. I can tell you the Saturday my dad, after retiring from Highway Patrol, got turned on to the volunteer fire department. I can tell you the two guys that were in the brush truck that were out riding the streets of our rural area, Rowan County, and they were in the brush truck, and they stopped, and we were cutting the yard on Saturday morning. It wasn't a drive, a volunteer drive. It was just they were out riding the roads of the district, but stopped to talk. And I know both, have kept up with both of those gentlemen since I was 12 years old.
You know everybody though.
No, I don't.
He likes to think he does.
I mean, he knows some.
I
shit,
know
though.
some very influential people, and like I said, my father left me a good name.
You know some shit too. I wanted to look this up real quick while we were talking. Big John and I were having a cigar the other day, and we were just talking, and we had a day off together, and he calls me and says, and I'm just going to tell you like he talks. Hey, Bitty Bitty, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I said, what are you
I
doing?
love Big John.
I said, what are you doing, buddy? He says, I'm going to mow the grass, and then we'll come up and see you. I said, perfect. Let's have a cigar. And I was watching the NASCAR Busch race, or I guess it's Xfinity Series now. Just dated ourselves. And so we watched the end of the race together. It went into double overtime. But we were talking. And so we went out and had us a cigar, and his wife was out of town, and my wife was at an event, so we were just kind of hanging out. We was out in the firehouse, and I said, man, I was going to watch a movie the other night and didn't watch it. And I don't know why I did, but I've got a shelf full of fire DVDs. And so I pulled out Backdraft, put it in, never watched it. So I turned on the DVD player, and on comes Backdraft. He says, hell yeah, let's watch it. I ain't watched that in years. So we watched Backdraft, and we watched it all the way to the credits, which is very abnormal. And they pop up with that statistic, there's like 1.7 million firemen in America, 3/4 of them are volunteer, which made me think. So I just got on the old Google box here. I want you to listen to this. The NFPA estimates that there are 1,080,800 career and volunteer firefighters in the United States. Of the total number of firefighters, 33% were career firefighters, 67% were volunteer firefighters, and only 8% were female.
Yeah.
Of the reported statistics.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know who participates in those, but those numbers have, in 20 years, have gone down a lot.
You have to submit a state roster, do you not?
Yes.
There you go.
Well, not all states do.
Not all states do.
In North Carolina, you have to.
Yes.
But think about that. That is a very large decrease from the in credit of Backdraft. And I don't know what the in credit was, but it's a lot. Mm-hmm. And it went from 75 to 67. Mm-hmm. So, what do you think about why are people leaving?
We're recruiting the wrong kind of people.
Elaborate.
So, I haven't left the fire service completely. Obviously, I still volunteer. I'm still part-time. But I've come off an engine. Went to an ambulance.
As a career member.
Okay. Love it. Absolutely love it. However, I just wasn't happy anymore. I got tired of having that target on my back for numerous reasons. I got tired of being targeted for numerous reasons and always being looked over. In my personal experience, always looked over.
So, interject something. You said something target-wise.
Yes.
Had a buddy of mine here. Met him at a hazmat school. Mm-hmm. Became instant friends with him. Great dude. His nickname is Tater because his head looks like a potato. If you're listening, Tater, this is for you. He was part of a career agency here in this state. And he, a very, I would call it broken agency. From the minute I met him, he was talking about how broken the agency was.
Right.
Leadership-wise and,
Right.
and boss-wise. And so he put on the back of his own Nomex a target with a Sharpie. That was how he identified it. Some people write their name. He wrote he did a, and it wasn't a target like you'd think, like a bullseye ring. It was like it almost looked like a Celtic cross, but it was.
Almost like crosshairs.
Yeah. And they asked him why he did it, and he said, because I feel like I'm targeted.
Yeah.
And instead of asking like the probing question, it's like, what behavior made you do this? Because obviously we hired you.
Right.
We brought you in. Now there's behavior change. And instead of like addressing the behavior change and what can we do to fix it, he's now working at Walmart and thriving.
Right.
And who would have ever thought that you would go to Walmart and thrive?
Right.
This motherfucker loves his job. This is a dude that would, I mean, he's a fireman's fireman. Has zero to do with the job anymore. Nothing.
And you know, that's a shame. And I don't want to say a waste, but it's a shame because you think about what he had to offer the profession.
Oh, yeah.
And what he had to offer that junior guy coming in and what he could have taught him.
I won't say it's a waste, Chief. I'll say it's a fucking waste.
Okay.
I know you probably can't say that or won't say that. I'll say it. It is a fucking waste. Because think about all the money that was invested into his training and the skill set that he developed by
The
going
knowledge.
to schools. Yeah.
The knowledge.
You can't take away guys going to fires.
No.
And if you go to one fire a year, that's not very much. And if that's all you guys get, that's all you get. That's fine. But this dude, I mean, like, I worked with him. Like, side by side with him in training and jam up. Smart dude, intelligent. But just said, I'm done. And there are more people that are saying, I'm done.
Yes.
And I'm going to say something borderline, maybe disrespectful, Chief, but a lot of chiefs forget where they came from. They get up there and it starts usually at the battalion chief level, and it
Yes.
gets worse as it goes on.
Well, in my case, it was engineer, but yes.
And they you get a little bit of power. And something interesting about power. I know you got something to say, Chief. I know you do. The Stanford Prison experiment. You ever read that?
Mm-mm.
There's a movie. You need to watch it. I want you to do that, and I want you to do it before I see you next.
Okay.
The Stanford Prison experiment. They took people at Stanford University, converted a basement into a mock jail, and at random they picked who was going to be the inmates and who was going to be the jailers. And immediately there was power trips, and there were, I mean, it became a psychological experiment. Mm-hmm. Like, to the point where the guards were wearing the aviator glasses, and they were cruel and unusual punishment towards these people. And they knew it was an exercise. But the exercise got out of hand to where they had to cancel the experiment. I want you to watch that. It is an absolutely fascinating movie, and it's true to life. They really did it, and it just... But with a little bit of power, people don't balance it well.
No, they don't.
Because it's not in our nature. I don't think it's our nature. You have to wake up and say, I'm not on a power trip. This is really what has to be done for the betterment. Because people don't wake up inherently saying, fuck it, I'm not going to work today. I'm going to sleep in bed. I'm going to be 20 minutes late today. I'm going to back the engine into a pole. I'm going to not pull the crosslay. I'm going to charge the line that's in the bed. People don't wake up and do that.
You're talking about power trips. I got one for you.
Go ahead.
So, my department, where I was at full time,
Yep.
got into it with an officer.
Got into it like verbal?
Yes.
Okay.
And it wasn't really gotten into it. It was a bay discussion. We were packing the hose back after a job. You know, simple stuff. And I asked him, quite frankly, it's like, no disrespect, but why do you get to choose what hose lay goes on back on the truck? You're not the one pulling you're not the one pulling the line. That's me.
That's beautiful.
It wasn't a heated discussion. It was just a simple question. Yes, was it questioning authority? Yes. Was it literally bay floor talk? You know, yes.
So, Chief, let me ask you this. For somebody that's listening that may be a newly promoted boss or a boss that's struggling or somebody that's aspiring to be, where's the appropriate time to have that conversation?
In my mind, there's nothing wrong with asking the question to be educated, asking the question to be enlightened, asking the question to better yourself. With anyone, we can question authority as long as you do it with what?
Respect.
And honor.
And integrity.
And integrity. Those are there we go with the 8 points of the Maltese Cross again.
It's funny how we come back to the Knights of Malta.
It is. Always.
Isn't that weird how that's the third time we've mentioned that here in just our brief time sitting here?
Well, you look at the history of the fire service. Why is it called the Maltese Cross? And what was it used for?
Right.
If we don't understand and respect and honor our past.
Have you read a book called The Crucible?
Yes.
Beautiful book. Beautiful book. Available on Amazon.
Her mother and I taught her very early. You can question authority, and it's okay. You do it with honor and respect and integrity.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I don't have problems answering those types of questions.
And that's all that was. It was literally a question wanting an explanation. It wasn't a question of authority. It wasn't a question of respect. It's why do you get to choose when it's not your job?
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, I get it, like while a medical director makes a decision on
Correct.
why we're going to do something medically.
Correct.
But like if the Minuteman fits what we're doing better than a AAA or a flat load, why should I have to prove? Like it should just be up to the shifts. Hey, let's all get together. I don't think it should be all 3 shifts or 4 shifts or whatever shifts your schedule you're working, or this group of volunteers wants the flat lay, and we get into too many ego. I guess not ego driven, but
yes, there are ego driven.
You think
Yes.
it's ego driven?
Yes,
Yes,
it's
I do.
ego driven.
So
yes.
we're not going to do that. And then the next thing you know, we don't like the pike pole in this place, so we're going to move it here on this shift. And when you come in, you got to that shit really happens.
Yes,
Yes,
it happens.
it does.
And I'm
Multiple
like,
times. Now, I'm the first one to take a pistol grip off a line just to make my department mad. But I don't like a pistol grip.
Oh, when we got our first load of nozzles in.
They make you lazy.
No, they sent it to me. It's in the glass case at the house. It says this is for when hell freezes over, and it's a pistol grip wrapped up, taped up. Because I'm not a pistol grip fan. I think they make you lazy. And I heard a fire chief tell me one time, well, that's so you can hang it in the window. Well, I'm going to do my work from the inside out.
Thank you.
I'm not going to stand in the window. Now, if it's that far gone, then I don't need to be that close.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But you can't argue with people that don't have the experience. And I don't think they do it to be malicious. I don't think they don't know any better. And when they meet somebody, and I'm just going to say, the cadre that we have, and I had a guy tell us one time, I expected you guys to be rough and tumble firemen. I'm like, what'd you expect? Like, you expected us to be what? All NFL athletes and cut and no. Have you been to New York City? Have you seen some of those guys?
Exactly.
They still fight fire. Just because we don't fit your litmus test doesn't mean that we're,
There's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah, and I don't really like cat, but I'm with you. Chinese food.
Okay.
I love Chinese food.
Okay. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're going to call it. Okay.
Mugu guy fan.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Love those little crab wontons. Those things are amazing. Absolutely amazing. I love food. I'm a fat kid. Leave me alone. No, I don't think they know any better. There's people that just don't know any better.
Okay, so let's go back to the phrase of what have you done in 30 years, even as a volunteer, to improve the level of service.
And this isn't a beat up on volunteers.
No.
not at all.
Because I know of volunteer organizations that run and train and move with a purpose.
I mean, you could say what you want about Kentland and Bladensburg and all them guys up in Maryland, Hyattstown, all them guys.
Yeah.
One, they're really good at marketing. I'll give them that.
Oh, absolutely.
But two, most of those guys in Kentland are mostly DC firemen. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know that. And then there's guys that get on planes and fly across country or up there monthly to volunteer because they go to calls.
To pool call.
Yeah.
They fight fire.
They fight.
They do
fight
the
fire.
job.
You can't take it away from
No.
them.
No.
And
No.
those jokers do some work.
Yeah.
But they have the experience to back it up. I know a kid that when I was in Alaska, I'm not going to mention his name because I don't have his permission, but he's now a DC fireman. And he was ate up with Kentland, man. Ate up with it. He had Converse shoes made with 33 on them. He wanted to be a Kentland guy so bad. And you know what? He did it. And then he went to DC, and he's a DC fireman now. He achieved his goal. And to my knowledge, I think he's still a volley in at Kentland. But those guys run fires, and they run calls. You know, we talk a lot about fires, but shit, you know, one of the things in North Carolina that gets me is we have rescue squads in North Carolina. And that's not the ambulance. That's mostly it's rescue agencies, and they require the TR here for a lot of places. And I laugh at that because that was built under the premise for the rescue squads because they didn't need firefighter 1, firefighter 2. But now, as hiring agencies were required of people, you got to have TR.
It was a requirement for me.
Yeah, you got to have TR. You got to have all this other stuff, and I'm like, this stuff's all covered in Fire 1 and 2.
Why are we beating a dead horse?
Yes, but we require it, and I think you follow the money trail. I think you got to follow the money trail.
It goes back to having so much shit on an engine or having so much shit on a truck and not having enough people to do anything with that shit.
Went to a fire the other day. There was a tractor drawn on the alpha side of the house. The engine pulled past, hooked tight to the hydrant. There was an engine behind that. They had 20 guys inside the house. Two guys on the roof venting it, and they popped a beautiful hole. Did a fabulous job. Fabulous. Quick knockdown. Did the best they could with what they had. Absolutely superb. Could not take anything away from what they did. But when you looked at, they put 20 people inside the house. That's not typical. No. Unless you're in a municipality.
Yeah.
A larger municipality. Because you said your staffing today was not very much. But you're going to get people on callback. You're going to get people on mutual or auto aid. But that takes time.
It does.
And in the medical world, time is muscle. And
sometimes we don't have that time.
Yeah. It's hard to get those seconds back, but it's hard to convince politicians that we're doing a good job when all we're doing is flying a recliner. You know, when they walk into the firehouse at 8 in the morning and they see the chief of department, and I know this isn't you, chief, but the chief is sitting in a recliner, sacked out watching the news, it's not a good look. Doesn't even get out of the chair to shake the public's hand.
Perception.
Yes.
We don't have the calls for service that we did 15, 20 years ago.
No, our call type has changed.
Our call type has changed. So we need to supplement that call type. And we go out and we do the fire prevention stuff. We install the smoke detectors. We go to the elementary school and read with the kids. Getting a company out involved in its community is paramount. Getting, what kid doesn't look up to be a fireman? And
ones that look at me.
Well,
they lost me in a Boy Scout group.
That's true. They did. But you look at those kids that look up to firefighters. Those kids that we're like it, love it, hate it, whatever, right, wrong, or indifferent. We're still, the fire service is still leaders in the community, and we're still local heroes. And the hero badge is such an incredible thing. And we thank you for your service. That's great. I think I get to do the best job in the world.
But we do thank you for your support.
Yeah. And
yes.
and that's great. And there's two different phrases with that. Thanking me for my service and thanking me for my support. That's great.
No, as firemen, we thank the public for their support.
Oh yeah. We should thank the public, and
Agreed.
that's how we thank the public is we go out and we read in the elementary schools and we install those smoke detectors and we make sure we're doing good public fire education.
Well, talking about fire education, like take me for example. We went to 2nd, 3rd grader up to 5th grade classrooms. Mm-hmm. I'm always the one that gets put in gear because I'm their size. What's the biggest thing that we push when doing fire prevention education?
Don't run from the firefighter if you hear one in your house.
Right. Of course, we're going to sound like Darth Vader.
Yep.
So you put one in gear.
Do you think kids understand that anymore?
Yes,
Darth Vader?
yes, they do because it's on Disney Plus.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, Disney. We won't even talk about that.
Don't open that
What a
can with me.
debacle that's become.
Yes.
That sure is a great bottle of water.
It is purified. It's good. I'm drinking Essentia, high alkaline.
That's that fancy bougie water.
It came from Curtis's house. Bougie water.
Bougie water.
I'll tell you something else. How about CNN Plus? Didn't even last like 60 days.
No.
10,000 subscribers gone.
Yes.
Jesus almighty. That's terrible. I can't imagine. I mean, look, I know that really nothing's off limits when we talk, but geez, it's just crazy to think about the world we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think about, and the reason you said Disney, those guys at Reedy Creek Fire that are Disney firemen, what's going to happen to them? What
Exactly.
about they have their own police force?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen? You know, like there could be some huge. People don't realize the ramifications of fallout. And that makes no sense. But somebody's got to tote the line. That's
Yep.
for sure. That's for sure. So let me ask you, Chief. You get a guy walks in and says, "Chief, I'm going to put in my 2 weeks. I'm going to go. Hell, I don't know.
Underwater basket weaving.
I'm gonna go stack ball bearings underwater and make $10 an hour more. I'm gonna go do this. Do you try to talk him into staying?
Does he provide something positive to the team?
Absolutely. He's on time. He's a good fireman. Does his committee duties. Committee duties meaning house chores.
Yeah.
I have to think about other people not knowing what we say. I said take up on the radio the other day, and somebody didn't know what we meant.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it's pretty simple. We're taking up all of our gear. Yeah, he's a good employee, but it comes down to dollars and cents.
Is it strictly dollars and cents?
Not
I can't argue with that. If he's going to make $10 an hour more
Yeah.
at the Bougie Water Company stacking ball bearings, you know. But let's sit down and have a talk, and that's where you come out. I would come out from behind the desk.
I was about to say.
And sit down at the table with him, man to man. Say, okay, let's.
What is going on?
Yeah, what's going on? Is it something that can be done? And I know you work here and you work there as a part-time job. I understand that. And if it's strictly dollars and cents, I have to offer what I have to offer, and that's dictated by budgetary coffers.
Yeah.
And I understand that.
Yep.
And if you're trying to provide for your family, I completely understand that. But have you sat down and listed it? You know, pros and cons.
Sure.
What are the pros and cons? And let's go through it. And some people you can't convince. Some people you don't want to convince.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're leaving?
that's fair.
Oh, here, I'll tell you what. I'll give you 2 weeks. You don't even have to come to work.
Yeah. You know, and
You're a blessing. Thank
but
you.
Yeah.
some people I want to convince to stay.
Sure.
When does it become acceptable to come out of that administrative role? I mean,
Oh, I see that now coming out of that chief role,
right?
coming out from behind the desk.
You've been on the line.
Uh-huh.
I grew up with you on the line working Kelly's schedule. You know, that's what I went to. That's what I know. That's why everybody looks at me like I'm crazy. It's like, give me 24s. I don't want 12s.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm used to. I'm used to it growing up with you.
My wife hated it when I was home.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know this person.
Go away.
Yeah, she's used to her freedom.
But when is it acceptable? Like I said, you've been on the line. You're still one of us, but you have literally been one of us.
In a human interest situation, yes. I like to think I try to know my guys, but I don't try to get nosy in their business.
Right.
Recently, I've had 2 employees that have had babies.
Right.
You know, send me a picture of it. We want to do a birth announcement. But I haven't gone to the house to see the baby as of yet. I want to know.
You want to be invited, first of all.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't want to be nosy. I'm not going to self-invite and go over there.
Right.
But I want to be
we
able.
weren't raised that way.
Exactly, we weren't raised that way.
Your mama would beat you.
But it just goes back to that when it gets to the human aspect, and that's a fine line, and that's a hard line for administrators to understand. or directors to understand, or chiefs to understand, whatever you want to call it, is we get into that, and where you're human, where you can be human with those that work with you, and you know this, and Jeremy, you'll hear me say this a lot. My guys don't work for me. We work for the public.
Facts.
We're on a team. I just happen to be the leader of the team, so we all work together.
People often forget that, like the manager of the ball club is, a baseball team. He's the guy that's got to go to the press conference afterwards, and usually the star players. Here, the star players don't really talk to the media. But they shouldn't, I guess I should say. Some people you just don't. They're great to walk through a wall and cut holes and cut cars and do fireman stuff, but you don't want to put them in front of a camera because they talk like me. I say that with a big smile on my face.
Grog like fire.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to PIO school. It is what it is.
I can write real well, but I can't English worth a damn.
When the manager comes out and he has his press conference, he's responsible. And the pressure is a privilege, I think. But that burden weighs heavy on the mind.
Heavy as the head that wears the white helmet.
Yes. I mean, it is.
It is.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
It sucks. Like, it just, I can tell you from experience, I worry about, are guys driving right? Do I trust that guy? I heard him on the radio. Oh, God. And it comes back, well, did you train him? Well, I've given him all the training that I can. I've tried to get him to go to school, but I can't force him to go. Because especially in the volunteer setting, what can you hold over top of them?
Nothing.
In the career world, thou shalt or thou go.
Mm-hmm.
And down the road.
But if they go, are they going to apply the knowledge they learned in the school? Or is it going to be talking on the radio? Are we talking in clear, concise?
Yeah.
Or does it sound like we're in eastern North Carolina running dogs on a bear hunt?
Mercy sakes. Come a running.
Easy.
Well, I mean, it happens. Listen, it happens. I'm going to tell you, it happens in north central North Carolina.
Hey, y'all, boy, come on over here. There's enough fire here for everybody to fight. I have heard that on the radio.
You
To
heard
be
that
sure.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
To be sure.
To be sure.
I'll be damned. I've heard a lot of crazy things wherever we live, and I shake my head at it. This isn't what I know.
I mean, I know what I sound like. On the radio, I sound like a 3-year-old. You're going to know it's me because I sound like a 3-year-old.
Right.
But if you listen to what I'm saying, it actually makes pure sense.
Right.
But then you have others that also sound like me. They just don't sound like they're 3. You can't understand a word they're saying because they're screaming and hollering.
Yeah, I don't get excited. I'm pretty calm about it. It's interesting to me, when you go to different areas. I mean, West Virginia is a different place. Virginia's a different place. It's interesting
Come
to
Eastern
listen.
95, you need a daggone green card.
Yeah.
North Carolina has its different dialects, and radio terminology is different.
Yes.
Thought plain text was supposed to be the order of the day.
Should be.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I thought it was supposed to be the order of the day.
And teaching strategy and tactics. Engine 1's on the scene. Heavy smoke showing 1-story wood frame residential. Kind of sounds a little common to all of us, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what's heavy smoke?
I can't weigh it. I can't quantify it.
Okay, so is the molecular weight causing it to push to the ground because the barometric pressure is low and the heat is driving it?
Yeah.
See my point.
Yeah, I don't like this is how when we teach our initial arriving operations class is if your first inclination when you pull up is to pull a hand line, then you call it a working fire.
Thank you.
If nobody can understand that at its base level, get out of here. Now, I will tell you that the guys that I work with will send me videos all the time. I can show you 100 of them. There's one guy, his name is Boone. He's bald as I am. He'll send me a video. Boy, that's heavy fire, heavy smoke. And he'll send me videos from TikTok. And I'm like, man, come on. But they do it because they know it drives me nuts. Like,
but if you're not being picked on in this line of work,
you're not
something's
loved.
wrong.
That's right. And
Something's wrong.
But I can't understand why we say all the things we say. If you can just say, on scene, working fire, residential, stretching, I know all I need. Now, if you have predetermined assignments, and again, I'm not a big fan of PDAs. Because there's always something.
Depends on the situation.
There's always something that fucks up, though.
Always.
So, you should know your roles. Like, if you see that you're second on scene, you don't need me to tell you.
But where do we determine what that role is?
Yeah, exactly.
On the training ground.
That's right.
And there's where we teach. With today's cameras on phones and downloading its software to laptops and throwing it to a data projector or hooking it up with an HDMI cord, we can burn any structure or anything within our first call territories and our second call territories.
In any way we
and
want
make it
to.
realistic.
Make it real, exactly.
Short of pulling hose and occluding vision. I mean, we can make it really realistic. I'm not a big fan of virtual fireman stuff, just so you know. I've seen it.
Mm-hmm. But we can do that. Okay, we go to the Walmart. And we start estimating the hose stretch to the back loading deck from the front of Walmart. What's an easy way of doing that? Take 200 feet of rope.
Yep.
Tie you a knot every 50 feet.
Yep.
And now, can you not walk through Walmart with that little bit of 5/8 cord and determining how far your 200-foot pre-connect line is going to take you?
Or get you a little wheel off Amazon.
Yeah.
And go at the front door and roll it.
Exactly. That's called training. Training doesn't have to be a whipping post. Let's think outside the box.
Yeah, absolutely.
Think about what kind of stretch you're going to make.
Here's the thing that always cracks me up. Like, I would always try to go to different grocery stores and support local business. Mm-hmm. But I would go to different ones, and I'd pre-plan while we were there.
Mm-hmm.
If we went to a shop...
I do that now.
But I don't understand why we don't do it. If, like we come into your house, I knew the floor plan before I walked in. This house plan that you're in is a very common floor plan now.
When was the last time we taught the new guy to look at the front side of the house and look at the windows?
The big picture window.
The big picture window that may be the living room. The little bitty window that might be the bathroom. Look at the ridge line. Where do you see the vents? So where might your bathrooms be or where might your kitchen be?
Yeah.
That's training.
Vents under the windows.
Yeah.
I'll tell you firsthand, I was not taught that.
Really?
I was not. I was, because of that man and because of my mentors in my career, I was not taught that at my career department.
Or at rookie school.
I never went through an academy, though.
I think that we push people through. We're so... I almost want to say we're almost like immune. We just want to get you through to the test, get you through the practicals, and then turn you loose. And a lot of people think that's when training stops.
No.
You have to have that much. You have to have that many hours every year as a career member. And if your department has any kind of ISO,
the day you stop learning in the fire service
Yeah.
is the day you become a liability.
Well, and there's a lot of liabilities walking around.
Yes, there are.
Your physical health as well. I mean, if you can't get out and go without, you can't walk up a set of stairs.
I mean, it's going to take me twice as many steps as it's going to take you.
Right.
Unless we both hit every single step.
But when it comes to confined space, I'm not going to be able to go places that you can go.
But I got you
That's
all
right.
day long.
But that's a strength and a weakness, knowing what people can and can't do. You're a ditch doctor. I am not a ditch doctor. However,
Correct.
I can spike your bag for you. I can get all your stuff ready. Get stuff ready for you.
Medics may save lives, but basics save medics.
That's very true.
But that goes back to the chief of the organization knowing what the positives each person bring to the table.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it has to be the chief. I think it has to be the boss at the lowest level.
I agree with that.
Because the chief's got enough to worry about. That's my crux. Like, nobody should ever have to talk to the boss. And by the boss, I mean the chief.
Right.
He's got enough going on. He shouldn't have to, And that was one thing that I struggled with a former chief, was that he was like, I'm not going to be held hostage in my own fire department. You're not going to tell me that. I'm like, whoa. Nobody's saying you can't talk to him. But when it comes to departmental issues, you need to pump the brakes.
Yeah.
There's a chain for a reason. Don't circumvent me to fulfill your need of being in charge.
That information flow has to come down the chain of command and up the chain of command.
Correct. And when you take somebody out, then it's like, I'm done. And I've seen that with a lot of people that I've talked with, well, man.
And that doesn't mean to stop the information
Yeah.
at the truck officer, because that happened a lot in my department too. There were things going on that I never knew about.
Right.
Granted, I was a tailboard. Yes, there's some things that I don't need to know. I just don't need to know.
That's right.
But at the same time, am I not still part of the organization?
Sure.
Am I not a viable member?
Sure. I mean, I didn't talk to my wife. I didn't. I mean, she was a.
Yeah.
You know, I just didn't. I didn't even talk to my roommate when we were living together and he was a fireman. I just didn't.
Right.
You know, there was a certain. It's just not your place.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
And that's understandable. But then there are other things that it's like, hey, just so you know, this is going on. If you hear about this or you see this, don't be blindsided.
Yeah, I think a heads up's warranted.
Yes.
I think it's fair. Hey,
Yeah.
we got a personnel issue going on. We got this going on, and be as brief as you can, and just paint it in a broad spectrum. But there are people that just want to know every fucking thing going on every shift with every person, and then what they do is they go back and they talk about it, and that to me is a cancer.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a toxic environment.
Yes, it is a very toxic environment, and you're like, oh, well, that's a buzzword. No, it's fucking
it is
terrible
because it does what to the organization?
Oh, it kills the morale.
Exactly, and it kills the organization. And then when you have ineffective policies, or you have policies that are outdated or antiquated, or not effective, then you're looking at the organizations now going through a severe identity crisis.
Yes. Very much so.
And we have fire departments in North Carolina that are going through identity crisis.
Yes, and they have really no help to get there, to get out of it. They're in a rut. And I've talked with numerous agencies from the mountains up north to the coast down south. And members are like, man, I'm thinking about getting out. And I don't know what it is. People always come talk to us. I'm thinking about getting out. And the first question is why? And I'll let them talk. 9 times out of 10, they want to talk. They wouldn't come up to you if they didn't want to talk. And they just want somebody to hear them. And usually if they can bounce something off of somebody that is able to have an intelligent conversation, not an emotion-based conversation.
Correct.
And say, I hear you, don't agree with you.
How many times have we had that conversation?
Oh, we have.
That's just it.
A lot.
A lot.
As adults in this profession, I should be able to say, I hear you, and I understand what you're saying. I don't agree with you, and this is my standing. And say, okay, maybe at the end of the day, we just go get a hot dog and a beer and everything's fine, but we have to agree to disagree. And it goes back to that what we were talking about earlier about questioning authority with honor, integrity, and respect. It's all in how you do it. And we're losing sight of that. And that's not just the fire service, that's society-wide.
Oh, absolutely. Do you think that maybe social media has played an aspect in that?
Yes, very much so.
Because I see it as people
sit behind a keyboard and can be keyboard warriors. And now with social media and COVID, you get out and you get on a JetBlue plane.
Oh, it's a pissing contest.
And you start aggravating,
somebody that was nice enough to take a picture with you.
Exactly.
And then asked you to leave them alone multiple times.
Exactly.
And then you got laid out. And now it's somebody else's fault?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's somebody's fault. The person that's fault is we don't assume that responsibility. It goes back to self-discipline.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he didn't have discipline, so he got disciplined.
And this is a guy that bit off Evander Holyfield's ear. I mean, come on.
This is a guy that, is strong. I listened to a Joe Rogan show with him on it. And, we're talking about Mike Tyson, for those that are living under a rock. Mike Tyson's actually intelligent.
Very.
And you would not think it because he's just a boxer. But to listen to his story is, 1, compelling, and 2, almost frightening. And then you listen to how his life was and what he is today. You wouldn't have thought it. I mean, he's got a daughter that came out, I believe she is part of the LGBTQ community.
Okay.
And, for him being high profile, that could have gone, it depends on the mood of the media that day.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But he, who's gonna argue with him? What media source is gonna argue with him? How dumb do you have to be? But, he said that was tough for him. But it's his daughter, he loves her. And that, you hit something so right on the head of the nail that everybody wants to sit behind a keyboard and talk absolute cash shit. But if I come to you and I'm saying this to you, I said, Steve, you're a dipshit, you're whatever. And I list off all the things. One of two things are going to happen. You're either one, going to laugh, or two, I'm going to get lit up. Maybe you'll walk away. But at least I would have had the guts and the fortitude and the dignity to look at you and say, XYZ.
Respect.
Now I'm going to fire off a text message to everybody but him. I'm going to call everybody but him. I'm going to Facebook everybody but him. I'm going to Twitter everybody but him.
I'm going to call a news media outlet, magazine, or newspaper online.
Yeah.
And talk about a situation except the person that was in the situation.
Yeah. That's not relevant to anything. And that is truly where we're at as a society.
Yes.
Society. We are able to just, in my opinion, fuck people up for no reason. Mm-hmm. And there are no consequences.
Very true.
There are no consequences. You know, when we were kids, you mouthed off to a kid in the hallway. What happened?
You got your jaw jacked, or you got your head whopped, or the teacher heard you, and then you got to the office, and you got paddled.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to that respect issue and self-respect and having respect for those that you were with.
So do you think it's a respect issue that starts at home and then bleeds over into self and then becomes part of the job because they're so miserable with themselves and at home and how they were raised?
I don't think they've ever learned anything but that half the time.
And then it just becomes a job.
And I'm okay with people that want to be in the fire service and it just be a job. But if it's going to be just a job, be the best job you can be. Be the best firefighter you can be at that day. Don't just be there for the benefits and the salary and the leave, but be there to do the job. Be there to do the job, because the people that we are sworn to protect, they don't care whose name's on the side of the truck when you pull up. They want a competent organization. They want somebody competent that's going to put their house out, that's going to save their grandmother that's hanging out the bathroom window on the second floor of the house, the child that's not breathing. They want somebody that can handle their problem. That's what they want. And on your day of duty, that is your job.
And you're absolutely right. That it is John Eversole was a chief in the city of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And his quote is so famous. I love it. It says, nobody calls the fire department and says, hey, send me 2 dumbass firemen in a pickup truck, and in 3 minutes, people they want 5 brain surgeon decathlon champions to solve all of their problems. Nobody says, send me 2 dumbasses in a pickup.
No.
They want their problem solved.
Now, the problem may be the chirping smoke detector at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep.
The problem may be I fell out of bed and bumped my head. But that at that point is a problem and emergency to them.
That's right. It's their worst day.
It is their worst day.
Is it inconvenient for us to be woken out of bed? Yeah, but that's what you're there for.
That's what you're there for. That is your...
You signed up for that.
Yeah,
I worked with a guy recently that... I got to tell you this. I'm sorry. We got a call, and he says, I can't believe this guy... And it was a low acuity patient. I mean, there was nothing there. And just rattled on and on and on and on and on. The whole way to the call. We get there, and we get within 20 feet of the patient, and it was like light switch switched. Hey, man, how's it going? You doing okay? Just like that. I mean, just like that.
That's the best skill we got.
Yeah. And then we got back in the rig, and can you believe that son of a bitch called 911 for this? I can't believe he did that. But again, there comes an element of compassion. There comes an element of
empathy.
Duty. Yeah. And those things you can't really teach.
No.
They're taught in the home. You are who you are by age 5.
Yes.
Your formative years. And if your parents are not home, or grandparents aren't home, or whoever who is your guardian is not teaching you, then this is what we end up with. We end up with a broken society that is... I mean, we're on the edge of chaos right now.
Chief has arrived on scene.
Yeah.
Which one of these levers makes the coffee?
Yeah, which one of these makes the coffee? Anybody got a nacho machine in their fire engine?
Right.
I have seen that.
Yes.
That's amazing. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Pennsylvania's a great place. It's an absolutely great place. But I don't know. I have a hope that, that maybe someday we'll figure it out.
Well, it's like I said earlier. I truly feel the fire service as a whole is searching for an identity.
Yes.
Because we have gone past that traditionalist father, son, grandfather. We've gotten into the fathers and daughters. We've gotten into areas that we haven't been before, and we're searching for it. And I think the fire service as a whole, we're searching for that identity. I mean, there are some departments that have really good identities, but the fire service as a whole, we're looking for that, and because we don't have the fires we used to,
Right.
we are doing other things.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thought that in 1986 we would have computers in fire trucks? Who would have thought that 5 or 10 years ago?
I remember the old MDTs
Yes.
from Motorola.
Yes.
The what?
Where a mobile data transmitter, it was a box about like this, and it had a keyboard on it and a screen. It was obviously not touch screen. A screen about yay big, and it would print like, and it would tell you where you were going, what you were doing. It had cross streets. It was the first form of CAD.
Yeah.
And totally legit. Like, it was a game changer.
Okay.
But it would give you...
I mean, I remember his pager, like the little thing with the screen.
No, this was a mobile data transmitter. It was in the front of the engine. It was the precursor to the now laptop or the Apple device or whatever you're using. But you were somebody if you had those.
You were somebody if you had a fax machine and you got a rip and run fax to your firehouse.
See, now I know what those are.
Tear and jog is what I call it.
Yeah, tear and jog instead of rip and run.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a few people. Seek Thermal Imagers, providing the best riding position thermal imagers that we can afford to put in everybody's hands. Crestar, obviously, we've talked about them and their firefighting equipment. A lot of folks don't know that Redhead is part of Crestar, and most of your couplings on most of your hoses are Redhead. So if you're using Redhead couplings, you're using Crestar. Old Pappy's Tool Lube. This is by far. I used to use all sorts of stuff on my tools, and then I found Old Pappy's. Greatest tool lube I've found yet. So don't be a fool. Lube your tool. We've mentioned Akron Brass, and we'd be severely remiss if we didn't mention Shooter at Thompson Multimedia, doing all of our decal work, all of our cool stuff, wrapping our new trailer, etc., etc. So if you need anything from Shooter, just find him on Facebook at Thompson Multimedia. He'll be more than happy to help you out. We talked about gear, and we talked about cancer. What are you guys doing at your agency, Whitley, for cancer prevention?
We break down gear after every fire. Most of us break down gear after every fire. I can't say... pot calling the kettle black, I can't say I do it after every single fire, but big ones I do. I break my stuff down, wash it.
It's tough when you have limited resources.
I only have one set now. I'm lucky enough I got measured for a second set a couple of months ago.
Sure.
But I've only got one set, and I keep my set with me.
Well, good luck getting it, because the supply chain issues are terrible.
Absolutely.
Absolutely terrible.
Absolutely. But, I mean, there's 40 of us on the roster at my department.
Sure.
There's like 8 of us that actually fight fire.
That's tough.
Yeah. So, I mean, we do what we can.
That's right. You got to make do.
Yeah, we have to John Wayne it. I mean, little podunk. I love my department to death, but it's little and it's podunk. Wouldn't trade it for the world, but we have to do what we have to do with what we've got.
And that's the hardest thing is I see a lot of, this is the main reason I got off social media. People say don't read the comments when people, so that was step 1. Step 2 was you get people from, I'm just going to pick a place. Let's just say Jersey City. They're a busy fire department. I don't know anybody in Jersey City except Dr. O'Neill. Guys get on there, well, they're doing this wrong, they're doing this wrong. They're doing this, they're doing that. We don't have the resources.
No.
And, the tax base doesn't support it here. But a lot of the things that are done with the tax base here for instance, chickens, hogs, turkeys, are things that people in Jersey City
Have
enjoy.
no clue about.
Enjoy.
Let's go hurricanes versus snowstorms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me a hurricane, I'm good for 2 weeks riding it out at the station. I'm doing work. I've pissed off a strike team from New Jersey. I've pissed off a strike team from Nevada.
Right. What's Nevada know about a hurricane?
Right?
They don't even know about rain, do they?
Not really.
Yeah.
I told them,
They get a gully washer, I think's what they call it.
So they got mad, and the National Guard, they got mad. Oh, it's too deep for us. It's too dangerous for us. We're getting orders to move. Da 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 da. It's like, all right, bye. See ya. You ain't gonna do nothing. Get the hell out my way. Well,
Gotta
what do
go.
you? Yeah. What do you mean? Well, we got to go. Aren't you pulling out? No, we can't. We live here.
Yeah, this is home.
Yeah, we live here.
Home field, motherfucker.
All of these people live here.
Yeah.
If you're not gonna do anything, get out of my way.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah, we'll do it.
We'll
We've been doing it for how long now?
Yeah, we'll take care of our people.
Yeah,
It
but
may take us longer, but we'll take care of our people.
yeah, but let a light dust and turn the ground white. Everybody here loses their freaking minds.
Oh yeah, just the thought of it.
Yes,
There's
whole
not
state shuts down.
There's not a French toast, anything to be found. Eggs, milk, and bread all gone.
Yeah, and beer and chips.
You said something right there that really sparked that whole aspect. We're going to take care of our people. So why do we kick the sand and get upset when we have to answer that call at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the morning, and we have to get out of our nice, warm, comfortable, lazy boy recliner?
Sure.
You know, that's
or from home.
or from home. You knew that was part of the task when you signed on the dotted line. You wanted to be associated with this organization. You want to be associated with this profession. Volunteer career, the same. The only time you ever volunteered is when you turned in that application, or you turned up that night and you turned in that application. The rest of it is
Obligation.
obligation. Yeah.
Ooh, that's deep.
Well, yeah, that's
deep.
the whole aspect of it. Of if you're not going to put in the time, if you're not going to put in the work, if you're not going to bring something positive to the table, you know,
Why
why are you here? I know of an organization right now that just received. They're a very progressive mindset organization, and they just received on grant 2 identical tankers, and there are 2 of the guys that drive large tractor trailers for a living, and they're both 50 plus years old that are on this organization, and they were told, if you want to fight fire, that's great, but we want you to take care of those 2 tankers. They're your trucks, because in rural southeastern North Carolina, we don't have hydrants. We depend on tanker or tender shuttles.
Sure.
And drop tanks and static water supplies, and we're moving water from point A to point B, and that's and those guys driving the tankers are just as important as the guy on the nozzle.
Yeah.
So you as a chief, what does this person bring to the table?
Do y'all have tankers?
Do we have to? I have a tanker, yes.
All right.
We do too. 3,300 gallons.
3,300 gallons.
Yep.
Policy question.
No
both
policy.
of you.
No policy question. Go ahead.
No, not for your age. Just as a general thought for you.
Okay.
How's that? Lights and sirens on a tanker?
Yes.
Yes.
Empty or loaded?
Loaded.
Either. If you're going to a call, you're going to be running a lights and siren.
Okay.
You are now committed to the call.
Yep.
If you are moving water from the fill point to the drop point, you're still in an emergency response, and by North Carolina general statute, you shall wear, you will have lights and sirens on. It says thou shalt. And it's not one or the other, or you're going to blow your siren at the intersection, or turn your red lights on.
Right.
Yeah, you're going to run it all.
That's right.
Because,
Go big or go home.
That's right.
Thank you.
It's
That's
tough.
right.
It's not.
No,
it's
no,
not
I
tough.
mean, it's tough to get people to understand. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I
let me
should
show
have
you
won.
motor vehicle law.
Yeah, and the other thing is when we're responding, who's going to be at fault?
Us.
Every single time. We may be sitting still.
Us.
I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting still, it was y'all's fault.
Mm-hmm.
So I just was curious to see what your thoughts were. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, antagonist. But I'm with you. It's black and white. It's hard to argue black and white.
And you can't argue general statute.
No, you could try, but you're not going to win.
Uh.
Yeah, that's not worth it. Not worth it. Well, I think we've covered a lot of good topics.
I think so.
We've chewed a lot of fat. Had a good time. I enjoyed my cigar. I enjoyed my visit.
Had a wonderful cigar.
Yeah. You got any parting words of wisdom, Whit?
No, you said mine. Go big or go home. That's my motto.
You better grow up. You might as well go.
Look, I grew out. I didn't grow up, okay?
100 whatever pounds soaking wet.
Yes.
Jeez almighty. All right. Go big or go home.
Hood rat shit with my friends.
All right. Chief, what do you got for us in closing?
As Ray would say, keep that fire in your life 24/7, 365. This is the best job in the world. This is the best job in the world.
Absolutely.
You treat this job owes you nothing.
And it don't take a rocket brain surgeon to figure it out.
Nah.
Brain surgeon. I love it.
This job owes you nothing. But if you give this job everything, it will give you an enormous amount of wealth and knowledge and things that you can carry in your heart. And the wealth may not be monetary, but when somebody comes up to you and tells you, you made my day better, be human.
That's right.
The last thing is keep that picture, or keep being in a picture bigger than just yourself alive. It's not a one-man show. Yes, sometimes we have to John Wayne things and we have to do what we do with what we've got. But it is a team. We are a team. It is not just about you.
From Sacramento to Sunset Beach.
Yep.
Be there in a few weeks. Can't wait. I guess what I've got is two things. Mistakes happen. It's what you do after.
How you adapt.
Mm-hmm.
Is what matters the most. And in closing, I will say that a paycheck doesn't make you a professional, but how you approach the job does. Steve, Whitley, thank you for your time.
Thank you, brother.
It has been an absolute blast to sit here. I hope that we can sit here and do this again.
Absolutely.
For those that tuned in and listened, we appreciate you tuning into the Halligans and Half Wheels podcast. We'll talk to you next month.